Go. Okay, we're up and running, so I'd like to make a motion that we go out of executive session.
I'll second that motion.
Penny?
Penny Scott Pipes. Yay.
Frank Snow, yes.
Paul Paris, yes.
Lisa Case, yes.
Great. My apologies to everybody in the room. We had to do a executive session meeting, and now we'll go to our regular hearing. For those of you who weren't here before, we're going to actually, at some point, hopefully discuss a little bit of the Driftway Park and also some of the construction issues on Hadley Road. So, 20 Newton Street. Good evening. Good evening. Where are we with that one?
Oh, actually, Frank, I was thinking we could take, we've got one RDA,
I'm sorry.
take that really quickly in the beginning.
Which one? Glades or?
No, Sassamon,
Nelly.
11 Sassamon
I
Road.
don't even have to. That's the only
It's
thing.
Is anybody
probably
here-
the
At the bottom.
Is anyone here for 11 Sassamon Road?
Absolutely.
Oh, jeez. Why are we doing that first?
Otherwise, I'm going to stay the whole night long
Yeah.
and comment on every project that comes in.
Stephen, we haven't heard you opine for a while.
Well, I'm going to be really short tonight, I
Well,
think.
let me read your,
Sure.
I don't want to deprive you of your
Move and replace
process.
on that.
On January 28th, 2019, during the 6:15 meeting at the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Deborah
Pettinelli.
Pettinelli for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetland bylaws to remove and replace an existing sunroom and deck on property located at 11 Sassamon Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Steve Bjorkland, here representing the Pettinellis. And this is it's kind of a strange situation because they had a deck on the house and a sunroom, and they received the permits after consulting with Amy. The building inspector issued a permit for this. There were existing footings underneath an old deck out there, but it was all skirted in, and the only way to get to the footings to find out if they were any good was to remove the deck from the site. So they put a silt fence out there at the edge of the lawn area, and like I said, the permits have been issued, but the footings were only, some of them a couple of feet deep. They just weren't good footings. So what we're really here for is just to replace 9 footings with 9 precast footings in an existing lawn area.
In
And I
the
think
exact same space.
well, they're moved a little bit, but the standing water that's on the site is actually getting a little bit further away from the standing water on the site. And I have a picture I could show you if you want to see it, but they're all within a couple of feet of where they were before. And like I said, there was an existing deck, they're replacing that.
When you say there was one, Steve, it's gone already, or?
Yes, yeah, they took it down because they thought they could use the existing footings. But when they took it down, they found out, they dug the footings after the deck was removed. They dug down beside the footings and found out you can't use the footings. So they just want to put in precast footings.
So what's the sunroom on?
The sunroom was on some existing footings out there. I think you have the plan, right?
Actually, no, it's the only one I didn't get, so I don't. Amy has the plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you
again,
want a copy of it?
Why don't you just, could you?
Do we have anything where this is adjacent to a resource area, Steve? Do you have a
What-
plot
Yeah.
plan or anything?
yeah. Well, the plot plan, actually, I do have a copy of the plot plan, so let's see if I can. And I'll have to approach, I guess, to...
So how far is this from the resource area?
They did is they used the edge of the existing lawn area, and let's see if I'll show you a picture here. This is looking out the back of the house, and you can see some standing water over here. This is, obviously, the ground was frozen. But these 2 footings right here are actually coming out, and if you look at it, this is the same direction right here. So these 2 footings here are these, 4 footings, excuse me, they're these footings out here. So this part is actually being removed, and this is the closest area to the ponding area. All right, I was going to say, I'll spin it around. Yep. So this showed the existing footings that were on here, so.
So it's all right here. Let's see the shed.
Oh, I see.
It's all pretty flat
Yeah.
in that area as well. The footings will actually be removed with a mini excavator around the back of the yard.
Wait, did there used to be a chicken house on this land?
That I would have to ask.
No.
No? Okay. Thank you.
None that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, it's a little different because the permits were issued on this, but it's just the footings that they're really looking to replace.
Okay. Hey,
No, I don't have any questions.
You want to keep the plan?
No, that's.
do we have pictures on file?
Yes,
Yes.
they were part of the application, Frank.
Okay.
Were all these pictures put in there?
Hey,
No, I'm all
Paul?
set.
No questions?
Lisa?
Nothing.
Amy?
No,
Anybody
I
in the
think it's
audience?
pretty straightforward.
Okay, take a motion.
I make a motion for -3.
Second on that?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that's a record for me.
Yeah.
I think so.
Tell the owner they're better off thinking about who, the next representative.
Yeah.
The next one I have to recluse myself from, so maybe Paul could open that.
Yeah, we'll just open this and continue it. On January 28th, 2019, during their 6:15 meeting at the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Mary and Gregory Fish for a determination of the applicability of the Mass Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaw to repair and upgrade the sewer disposal system on property located at 13 Glades Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
So you want to just make a motion to continue to the next meeting?
To the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion that we continue 13 Glades Road to February 11th, and it's an RDA, so there's no time.
I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Paul. So now, I'm sorry, 20 Newton Street. My apologies.
So, I'm Myron Osborne, for Cohen family.
Yeah.
We're basically, it's an existing deck. I'm going to support the existing roof in place and remove the existing deck and install 12 new footings to be built on.
Let's take a quick look at this
Yeah.
plot plan. So we opened this, why did we continue it? Was there,
We were waiting for other information to come back from the state.
okay.
Yeah, we had a findings letter from Division of Fisheries and Wildlife come in on January 18th.
Okay.
The plovers are the species of concern, so they have restrictions that they wanted special conditions for.
Okay. So there's an existing porch there now,
Yep.
and you're removing that?
Removing, going back in the same footprint and replacing 3 sets of stairs.
Okay,
Basically, everything's going to be the same size. Going right back.
thank you. Penny?
Nope, it looks good.
No questions?
Lisa?
Nothing.
So Penny, sorry, Amy, what's the added restriction on the plovers?
They have findings for Wetlands Protection Act and Massachusetts Endangered Species Act. Must be conditioned in order to avoid adverse effects in the resource area habitats of the state-listed wildlife species. It must be conditioned in order to avoid a prohibited take for the species. So there's special conditions for construction. Time of year, April 1st to August 31st for monitoring, so there's a requirement that the birds need to be monitored during that time period.
Can you
And
get it done before April 1st? There you go.
Hopefully started in a couple of weeks.
they're filing, like if you amended the orders, you need to make sure that they knew about it and stuff like that. So,
Okay, and that'll be part of your orders of conditions.
Yep.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to 20 Newton Street?
Make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So then we'll have your orders at the next, we'll vote them at the next meeting, so it'll take a couple weeks to get that, but we'll get your orders together.
Okay, so do I have to come
What's the
back to
next
another?
meeting?
On the 11th.
I don't think you
February
need to come back. I
No.
mean, we're pretty straightforward here. So.
So, but I can get the permit going on in the meantime, or do I have to wait?
You'll need to get the orders before you do that,
Okay.
so, all right?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. 33 Oceanside Drive, raised and moved dwelling. So we've already opened this one as well and continued it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
and we did get a revised plan dropped off in the office today.
Oh,
So, I think Paul Miravito is going to present the new information, but I have a copy if you want to see it with a letter.
That'd be great.
oh. And I think Amy said that she got the phone.
Here I go. Got this one.
We want to review what the enforcement to for the butters and before
Well, so they
people are
know.
concerned.
Sure.
What's that?
Paul?
Thank you.
5 feet, shifted 5 feet northeasterly.
I know you're well-known, but just for the record, what you're doing.
My name is Paul Miravito from Wetlands Hearing Company, representing the applicant, Alfred Boyajian, for proposed work at 33 Oceanside Drive. This plan that I submitted today is a revised plan. The nature of work is exactly the same. After the last meeting, I did speak to my client. He does not want to put the house on piles. He's still proposing to move the house from 43 Oceanside, which is 3 or 4 houses up the street, and place it on this lot. He would add a garage to it, which we have shown on the original application. The change we've made is there's a wall here that was 25 feet out from the house. Now it's only 10 feet out, and it's 8 feet out here. The purpose of that is to get some elevation over the stormwater.
Is there everybody that's interested in this, can you see it? If not, we can,
33 Oceanside, yeah.
you make a better door than a window, Paul.
I do?
We all do.
Thank you.
Why don't we just have this one hanging on?
These are the stormwater units.
Paul, can you point out the wall and the fill area again, please?
Yeah, this is a landscape wall, which is approximately 1.5 to 2 feet high. There's a stormwater recharge system in the front of it, which will collect water coming off the entire roof area. That'll be recharged into the ground, so nothing goes over the land and into the street. At the present time, the water comes over the seawall in the larger storms, and it flows across this property and into Kenneth Road. There's an existing catch basin here, which in the bigger storms floods, and the water goes down this driveway and floods the 2 properties in this area here. Oceanside Drive is sloped in this way. The water is flowing in this direction, and it flows in this direction here towards Kenneth Avenue. We're proposing a wall here on the northerly side of the property. The elevation of that is 15. The FEMA flood zone from the 100-year storm is also 15. So what that does in effect is any water that would rise to elevation 15 is going to go out into the street and down and around as opposed to going in this direction here. There's a area plan between this wall and the property line, and the water would flow through a swale in any given rainstorm, as well as the ocean water, up until it reaches up to the top of the wall. And then by that time, the entire neighborhood is under anywhere from 4 to 5 feet of water. We're also proposing a low-profile planter berm in this area here. It will be approximately 1 foot to 18 inches tall with some low plants in it. And we're proposing a from this wall to the top of the berm. The elevation of the ground here would be approximately 14 feet above sea level. The top of the berm would be 13 or 1 foot lower. And that allows us to slope the land away from the house, which is required by the building code. And we'd be doing the same thing on this side here. We'd be sloping from the wall towards Kenneth Road. By incorporating these walls, it'll stop the water from coming in this direction and going around the house and coming down the Kenneth Road in this area here. It'll be forced to go down the street and into the catch basin, or it will continue on down Oceanside Drive. The rest of the land you see here, the wind and seeded, this is going to be open lawn as well. This would be a landscape area. The reason we picked this up against the house is one, to bring it up above the flood elevation, but also provide cover over the stormwater system in this area here. It also reduces the size of the stairs. The stairway we show is like a Nantucket style, where you walk out of the house. There's a platform and you go either way, left or right, down to this area and out to the driveway. This is the proposed driveway. There's an existing driveway that went to the garage in this area here, which will be abandoned from here to here. This new driveway is going to be much shorter. It'll serve a proposed two-car garage that's 22 feet wide. This area here is a ramp to get into the lower level or a storage area. It is not a garage. It's just for access into the area below the house. The flood zone elevation is 15 feet above sea level. The slab of the house in the lower level will be elevation 16.1, which is a foot above base flood. The Scituate Conservation Commission requires that the review be at least 1 foot above the base flood elevation for the dwelling, and that has been that. This is the outline of the house. This is the proposed garage, and this is the proposed covered porch, and this is the stairway leading down to it. The house will be serviced by the existing utilities that service the house, which has been removed in the last couple of weeks. At the last meeting, there was some thought that the old house was on piers. I spoke to the demolition contractor, and he said that there were no piers in there. There's a 12-inch wide reinforced concrete wall. There's quite a bit of steel in the wall. There's also a center wall in the foundation. Those walls were removed, the perimeter, the interior wall. He said there were some breakout panels in them. I think there's approximately 6 or 8 breakout panels. They're about 4 by 8, which is the size of a sheet of plywood. He said they were in place. He didn't see any evidence whether they'd been breached by any storm. He said they were well constructed. That's not typical of the breakout panels that you see in the foundation today. So I think with that, I'll end my presentation and answer any questions you may have.
Okay. And just for information in this room, the demolition of this house was done prior to any permitting, so the commission has issued a cease and desist for that piece and fined the applicant because of that action. Nothing should have taken place in the commission's opinion, although they did receive a building permit, but it was with the understanding that there wouldn't be any groundwork, and there was groundwork and there was filling. So the commission issued a cease and desist and a fine for that project. And one of the reasons, Paul, is that, just as you pointed out, Now, you're telling us what was there before, when it would have been the ability of the commission members to go out to the site and view what existed on that property prior to demolition. So, at this point, maybe some photographs or some other proof of the existing conditions would be helpful.
I think the only photographs we have are the ones that we submitted with the notice of intent application.
Right.
Yes, a survey was provided to us by the applicant that was performed by a firm other than Ross Engineering. It was basically the existing conditions plan, and I believe we took photographs of what was out there.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll add those to the record, but that's the frustration with doing a piece of this without process. Penny?
I don't know. How much fill was brought in to this piece of?
I asked the contractor that, he said it was about 50 to 60 yards. And the purpose of the fill was to fill in a small portion inside the foundation. He didn't want to leave the depression on site for safety reasons. So, 50 to 60 yards would be 2 dump truck loads. He brought that in, and he leveled the site with it.
That'd be 2 trailer truckloads.
He told me 60, yeah.
It says 7 cubic yards here.
Pardon?
700 cubic yards here.
So this is the proposed plan. I think you're talking about...
Penny asked about how much was put in.
Right,
after they
no,
demolished
Lisa
the house.
was saying, asking about
The
that.
quantity of fill to be added for this project, the engineer's estimate is about 700 cubic yards.
Okay, so,
But your question was how much was brought in at the time of the
brought in
demolition?
prior
Right.
To change the site before we even...
oh, prior to this. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, no, I really wish it was going up on time, and I wish we could make that happen. But, I do have the flow off the back of the roof is going in there, storm tension basin there. I don't know. Go, Paul.
Paul?
Is this where it says edge of paving and it shows this long, on the northwest side, this long gray bar, is that a wall there, or?
You mean this here?
Yes.
Yes, that's a landscape wall. The top of that's elevation 15. The ground under it is around elevation 12.
So it's
And
15.
Oh, yeah, I see the note now, yeah, top of wall 15.
Is that existing?
no, that's on the proposed site
That's
plan.
proposed.
And what we're doing is to bring the site up so it conforms to the FEMA requirements for the construction of that house. Mainly that slab be at least at or above the ground around it, which it would be. The FEMA flood elevation is 15, the ground out there is around 12.
Okay.
So the majority of that 700 cubic yards is going to be underneath the house in the garage.
Paul, do you have any other questions?
No, no other questions.
Lisa?
Just, the proposed garage, that's going on a slab, is that?
Paul, do we have a foundation plan or any plans for the building?
Now, the building he's putting on there is the building he's moving from 43 Oceanside.
So do we have a foundation plan?
I don't have one. The only one that I'd be aware of is the one that's at the building department.
Okay. Sorry, Lisa.
Nope, that's okay. I was just wondering why, considering the location of this property, why it wouldn't be better to be elevated rather than put it on a slab and have just one
Well,
more
I think
thing for the
the
water.
building's
Yeah.
elevated, and that's
Yeah.
why there should be a foundation plan.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
It's the only way you know if the foundation conforms, is if you see a plan, yeah.
So we need a foundation plan.
But the slab, so there's a slab for the garage, there's a slab for the lower level, and then the top of the finished floor of this house is at 25. Right?
Yeah.
So the finished floor of this house is 12, roughly 12 feet above the existing grade?
That's the first floor.
Yeah.
Existing grade,
Right?
existing grade's coming up 4 feet,
Okay,
about 8 or 9 feet.
okay. Amy?
Well, I mean, I think that we'll want to hear from the abutters again, and probably some of the things I had to say speak to their concerns, which would be based on the amount of fill that's going to be brought onto the site, demonstrating no adverse impacts for flood control and storm damage prevention, not just for the big storms, but for some of the small storms as well. I think you've seen that data as to whether they would be impacted under the 20, 50, or 100-year storms. And as you know, we just received this plan today, so I think it's important that we have time to review it in detail before we have all our comments out. And then again, with respect to the enforcement order that you guys voted to issue at our last meeting, that did have a $2,100 penalty associated with it, it would be good to have an understanding that that will be paid before the project moves forward.
It hasn't been paid yet?
I'm not aware that it has been.
Well, it can't go forward, I'm saying to it.
Well, why don't we wait
Anything
until
else?
it's been received?
No, that's it, no.
Okay.
I wouldn't close.
So in the audience? Yes, ma'am. And you want to state your name and address, please?
I'm Amy Broder, I'm at 7210, right across the street from this. Again, always my concern about the walls, both on the northwest line of that. I think you're kidding yourself if you think the water is going to change direction and go back out towards the street. That's not going to happen.
Sure.
Ever. And floods are floods. They're going to happen. And then when we get the bad floods, you're right, it's just going to go through that yard. It is what it is. But this last week, was it last weekend? The weekend before, when we had a splash over and a little bit of coastal flooding and stuff, water was running through that yard. And so we really need a solution for even just heavy rain. I know that we all get caught up on the flood times, but you really can't, there's not a lot you can do about that. If the water's going to come, the water's going to come. I'd like to see a plan that doesn't have a 3-foot wall along the perimeter of that property, pushing water onto everybody else's property.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience on this? So, Paul, a few things. We do have these couple of issues. A, we don't have a foundation plan, so we need that as part of the submittal. B, this retaining wall that's on the,
That's not a retaining wall, it'd be a landscape wall. It's only about 1.5 to 2 feet high. The purpose of that is to contain the,
well, it looks to me like the existing grade on the other side of this wall is 12.7, and the grade on the side of this house is at 15 at the driveway, so that looks like a retaining wall to me.
okay, we call it a landscape wall, but
You can call it what
Let's
you
just
want.
call it a wall. It's a wall.
There's a wall keeping,
All right. So, I understand compensatory storage and that this area is in a flood area and that once this is filled with water, the significance of 700 yards of material in this whole basin is small. I don't know how to measure that, but
you can't.
so I get that. But the other point to this, and we deal with this in several areas, is the deflection or redirection of water around this property. And I think you're hearing that from the concerns of the neighbors, and you've had this issue before. You're creating a little island for this house when you do this. And you're trying to keep the water away from the house, and everybody's trying to keep the water away from their house with the storms going over, and it's been more prevalent, people understand that. But when you're taking a whole piece of property, and you're not just elevating the house and keeping the house and the utilities and whatnot out of harm's way, now you're creating an island for this one piece of property. In the process of doing that, you're going to push water all around this house till a point comes where that water exceeds a certain level, say elevation 14 or 15. So right now, there's elevation 13, elevation 12 on the sides of this house, and until that water is 3 feet high, that's going to divert that water around that house and towards other people in that area.
Actually not, Frank. What it's going to do is, right now, the site is relatively flat. Off-site here, you got elevation 13. This lot is elevation 12 in this area here.
Well, that lot is a depression.
No, let me show you what the grades show. This is the plan showing the existing contours. There's a 13-foot contour here. There's a 12-foot contour that's in this area here. So most of this land is being shown as 12. I mean,
Yeah.
This is the house.
So elevation 12 is lower than elevation 13.
It is. So what's happening is it's going from 13 to 12 to 11, down to there's a drain manhole at 10, and there's a catch basin here, lower in elevation. The grade down here is elevation 11.6. The point I'm making is that right now, even if this house is here, the water's flowing downhill. And it's going into this low area here. And the water gets, the water's flowing overland from the lot. It's also coming down the street. Oceanside Drive is slope in this direction here. It's all coming down to this low point. There's also a driveway in this area here where the water goes in and floods these two houses in the back here. Oceanside Drive has not been cleaned up by the town. The town's only got the one catch basin. The point I'm making is that we're going to pick the site up for two reasons. One is to meet the FEMA flood elevation requirements and the construction requirements.
When does FEMA require you to fill a lot?
Well, under the FEMA,
When does FEMA require you to fill a lot in?
in order to meet your rules and regulations and also to bring your building into compliance with FEMA regulations so your insurance rates don't go through the roof, the bottom of this building has to be at least elevation 15.
Right.
You asked that it be a foot higher, so we set it at 16.1.
Yep.
The garage slab is at 15.1, which can be lowered in the house. But what we're doing is, again, it's going from 13 down to 11. Right now, the water's going in this direction. It's coming down the street, it's coming around here and into the basin. Once this wall is in place, the ground's at 15. The water wants to come in this direction, is going to be forced into a swale and come around in this area here. The water's going to stop coming across this way, and the reason is that unlike the other houses in the neighborhood, this entire roof area is going to be recharged into these stormwater chambers below grade. So the water that used to come off of that roof in the old house, that's all going to be recharged into the ground. And the rest of it's going to be a lawn area, which will absorb water at a fairly good rate. We've also got the landscape berm here. So any water that's falling on this site, any water that's coming in this direction is going to be directed out to the street and away from these properties. The water from the roof area that used to go out downhill towards these properties is now going to be contained in these areas here. And the rest of it's going to be a lawn area which will absorb quite a bit of water. The impact to these properties on Kenneth Road from this site is gonna be a lot less than it is right now. And it's because of this grading feature here, the fact that our water from the roof is gonna be directed into the subsurface area. And again, the slope of the roadway, we can't do anything about that, and we can't stop the water from wanting to flow downhill to the slower elevation. The bottom line is, with this design, these walls and the way we graded it, even with bringing the site up in elevation, it's going to shut off a lot of the flow that's going across here now and into this area of Kenneth Road. When you get the ocean storms, the elevation is 15. You know, theoretically, this site would be under 2 feet of water. This site down here would be under 5 feet of water. You know, we can't stop that.
I understand that.
But in your smaller rainstorms, which happen more often, most of that rain is going to be contained to this site. And what isn't contained will run off into the street in this direction here, and the lawns are going to absorb most of the water there. So the bottom line is there will be less impact to the homes on the other side of Kenneth Road. As far as I can tell, Kenneth Road doesn't have a crown in it. Everything's sloping straight across to this lower area.
I think we've gotten enough information until we get a foundation plan. I'm still a little lost with the requirement of FEMA to fill this lot. You can build this house a number of different ways. It could be you have the right to put it on a concrete foundation, and in some ways that's better, it protects the house. I don't doubt that for a minute. So whether it's piers or a foundation, you're allowed to do that. You could also pour a slab inside that foundation at whatever height you want to. And if you're trying to get storage or a garage, we allow ramps that get into the garage. But what you're also doing with this is you're changing the contour all around this house for the purpose of trying to minimize flood insurance by saying that the grade around the house is at a different elevation. And right now, the flood maps show that property within a floodplain. So the only way to change however you rate that is after you're done filling this, you're going to have to get a map revision. If that's even possible.
Well, again, the reason those slabs are where they are, like you say, is...
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand. And I don't have a problem with that. But adding this much additional material around the house and the creation of these other walls is a concern to the commission and how it impacts the people around it. And I totally get the filling piece and that once the water's up in that area, it's not going to impact it. But somewhere in between, when that storm happens and when that water's flowing through there, this, just like other property on this street, is going to wind up being shed onto other people's property.
Well, the plan we presented, I think clearly shows where that water is going to go. Keeping in mind the flood elevation is 15, the smaller storms are not going to get up to 15.
I get it.
But from the northerly side, it's going to go on the Oceanside Drive, and the majority of the site's going to be captured and recharged on site.
Yeah.
If we didn't put any fill in there and we built these slabs up high, then you'd have these god-awfully looking ramps going up into the lower level. And the water is going to come right across that site the way it is right now,
Yeah.
completely unabated. With this design, you've got all kinds of mitigation there to reduce the amount of water coming off of that site. And all of your normal rainstorms,
Yeah.
and in the ocean storms, you know, who knows where it's going to go.
I hear your argument. I get that. We need a foundation plan. We're going to have to continue the hearing. And we got a whole bunch of other things to do tonight, so.
I don't have photographs of the site. We never took any before.
Do you have any,
We actually have photographs that one of the abutters.
I have,
Of the original house?
so I think,
Yes, show
I
the
have
abutter, yeah.
photographs.
okay. And you're Mr. Boyashin, obviously, but for the record, you're here, so. All right, so why don't we get some photographs, get a foundation plan? Okay?
Scituate Foundation.
Do you want to have
I
them
sent you one.
evaluate
One of your
what
records.
it would, the conditions of some of the smaller storms?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Would you like to have them evaluate the impact of some of the smaller storms?
We did that already.
Is it in a written form that we can see?
Yeah, there's a report that you submitted with it. It's a stormwater report.
Oh,
Okay.
And that shows the current site
Yes, yeah.
proposed plan with the
It
smaller
shows the
storms.
existing, and there's a watershed plan with it.
Okay.
And, it shows the existing impact, and then the proposed,
Under
using
what?
these chambers.
Under what storms
What's
they'll
that?
fall.
All right, no.
Good.
So I think it's the smaller rain events that
No,
you're
it
concerned
goes
about.
up to the 100-year storm. This one is a 10-year, a 100-year, there's a 2-year, the 210 and the 100.
Where's Doug when we need him?
I know. He'll be in next
Okay.
meeting.
Well, you can take a look at that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm more than happy to give it to him.
Okay.
All right. I make a motion.
Do you,
Oh,
can you get that to us in the next couple of days so we can continue this to the next meeting?
Did you say you
What does he want, foundation plan?
Doesn't matter,
I-
we can't give it to me tonight, and, I mean, you can give it to us, but
we're
Yeah,
not
we'll,
going
we'll get it to
to
you.
pass it.
we're not gonna review it and hold up everybody else here
All right,
tonight.
well, that's fine.
So the 11th?
Is that the next meeting?
Yep, I make a motion to continue 33 Oceanside Drive to February 11th at 6:20.
Second.
Paul, you know what you could add to that plan is some kind of cut on that wall and the berm. I don't see any information about either that wall,
You want a cross-section?
something,
All right.
some more information on the wall, the berm. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you gave a motion? We got a
You
second?
got a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 157 Turner Road. Elevate.
Hey, Frank, just want to announce for people that are here for the projects that have been continued,
What are they?
109 Jericho.
109 Jericho, Wolf, that's been continued to February 11th. And Tack Factory Pond Drive, well 17A, the treatment plant, that's going to be continued to February 11th. So if anybody's in the room for either one of those, they'll be continued. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
If you, which project were you here for, ma'am?
Tack Factory, well 17.
Are we certain that that's going to happen?
You're all set,
On the
Fred.
11th?
Yeah.
You're all set.
Thank you
We'll
very
be,
much.
we'll be in touch.
You know, you might want to just, we'll try to get a butters list or something of folks that are interested. Why don't you check, my apologies. We posted it in a couple of spots, but it's not,
It's right there.
thank you. Uh, 157 Turner? Is that you again?
Yes, I'm Paul Maravito from Ross Engineering Company. At the last meeting, there was a question about the structural design for the foundation.
Right.
Since then, I've spoken to Peter Falk.
Yep,
I've also spoken to Neil Duggan and Bob Vogel about this.
yep.
The question is whether or not another state agency would chime in, and having spoken to the building department, they're of the opinion that they've already approved 3 or 4 of these houses, 2 of them about 4 houses down from here,
Right,
2 of which we were involved with about 3 years ago. They're of the opinion that if, that they have the jurisdiction under the building code to approve this, if this is the best solution to reaching the goal that they're trying to reach, is to elevate the house.
okay.
And he was also clear that he felt that they're the only ones that would issue the building permit, not some other agency.
I understand. And Paul, I have had discussions. I stopped, I see Mr. Jones is here tonight. I was in to their office and talked to Peter about the foundation, and so I brought up the question at the last meeting, where were we? And I also had a discussion with Bob. I did not have a discussion with Neil about the foundation, and as a contractor, I appreciate the issue that you have, or the applicant has, trying to do a foundation with an existing home where there's no place to put the house and the cobble around it. And it wasn't clear to me when we had the last hearing why this was happening. And so that's what we asked for. And I said to the engineer from Rivermore, Peter Falk, afterwards, that I didn't really feel that he needed to elaborate any further, that I understood why they were doing that. I wish Amy were back in here, because she's got some comment that she wanted to add to that. The hard part that we're having is that we're being scrutinized by CZM and DEP. A lot of, we're doing stuff with the town with grants for elevation. We also have our community rating service, and we've been scrutinized by the state that we're allowing the proper foundations in the proper locations. And so that's really where this, what is driving this bus. And so I think, Amy, can you elaborate a little bit on what you found, and then we can talk some more?
Sure. Yeah, so basically on this one, it comes down to the pilings, or the way we elevate the house. So obviously, we're in favor of permitting a project to elevate the house. There's no doubt about that. It is the concern about scouring and increased velocity by leaving concrete structures in the ground. So we would like to see the concrete taken out, consistent with DEP policy.
So, you and I have had a discussion a little bit about this, and I don't know if some of the other members, you know, the difficulty with this project is, what do they do with the house? You know, somehow you have to crib this house and jack it up, and then try to remove the material that's underneath there. And not that it can't be done, but it's pretty difficult project, given that it's just hardly any property there. There's two property lines. By the time you dig any holes around this house, I'm sure the neighbor's fill on either side is going to be falling in, unless they drive sheeting or something like that, which is pretty extraordinary. We don't usually see that for a residence. So, but I just, you were out of the room, but I just explained that we also have to deal with DEP and CZM and the agencies that allow this. I don't know if this is getting a grant for elevation.
It is.
So,
This is the missing
right,
piece.
so I think we would be doing you a disservice by not at least making sure that this is clear, so that you don't wind up, because there's been a couple of cases where grants have been denied people that haven't followed the regulatory process. And I certainly don't want to hold this project up. We all agree that it should go up. It's, are we in compliance with this so that the applicant can get their grant money and move forward? And maybe you can give us a little bit more in the feedback that you got from.
So the feedback that I received was that the project's been flagged because of the proposed method of putting the house up. So if they can demonstrate, a different type of whatever, what will work, or at least evaluate different methods. I don't know what to do if this is the only method that will work, but the agencies seem to be confident that there are other new methods that you can get these houses up in tight spots like this.
Who would the person, what person or what agency needs to be addressed?
So CZM reviews these as part of the review team for the FEMA grants.
Yeah.
So that was the source of my information for this too, and also spoken with our coastal resource officer, who helped put forward the application to FEMA. But they wanted to be consistent with the coastal policy, which we've printed out, I think you guys have in front of you, for the performance standards on a coastal dune.
So we're kind of in a little bit of a conflict, because I've got a copy of the matrix of how that works as well. We've had that discussion with the building department, and they feel that it's compliant.
Well, I spoke to Bob this afternoon, and we both were scratching our head about, how this is, have they done the test pits or test borings to show just what soils are there? I mean, that's how you would design.
It's not rocket science on finding out the soil that's there is cobble, and it's not stable.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done enough things in that area that I hardly think that the applicant's got to waste time and money to do a boring.
Right.
That's my personal opinion. I don't know, I mean, we've in the past asked CZM to meet us on a couple of these things. We did it in Humrock last year when we were talking about foreshore protection and other things like that. I'm trying to figure out a way that these guys can move ahead.
Well, have they evaluated other methods, Frank? What other methods have you evaluated? Because they threw out several other ways to put piers in other than the method you're proposing.
Well, you were out of the room, but I just said, in looking, I mean, I've done this before. And in order to elevate this house with the property lines where they are, with the type of material that's around it, when they go to excavate for that, they're gonna be well into their neighbors, unless they were to drive sheeting down either side of that house, which is pretty costly, and also damaging. I mean, it's vibratory, it raises havoc with the neighbors. It's a problem. I mean, I'm not here to engineer this project, but I just know from past experience that they're very limited in what they can do.
Right. We've had to do a lot of these where we've had concrete because they had no place to put the house.
Yeah.
And there's not enough room under a house to bring,
Yeah.
when you say we're gonna drive wood pilings, helical,
no room.
that all sounds good, but if you you can't fit the equipment under the house, you
Right,
can't
right,
do
right.
those, yeah.
No, I know. Well, there are other new technologies that I'm not a structural engineer, but that people out there have told me that should be evaluated in this case.
Well, we haven't seen any of them yet here. Yeah.
Well, helical piers would be something that has been thrown out.
Oh, and see, I was under the impression it was
I
still
mean, I
same
think you-
principle. You had to have the
could-
room to move the house.
You still bring equipment in to put the helical piers in. It's a
You gotta be
helical
able to
pier, but it's a
remove the
pier.
house to be able to drill them.
So finished piers that are going in, let's say they're 50 feet tall. Well, now your house has to be 50-plus feet in the air to get the full
The
pier.
ones that I've seen are you build them as they go down and you add to them. So
Okay.
you don't need as much height.
And
Again,
yeah.
it's not up to us to
Right,
engineer it.
right.
So, I mean, I think what you could do, since we are in favor of the elevation portion of it, would be to close pending suitable foundation plan as a special condition. Or you could continue until you get what you want, or just close period, and it's up to you, but I'm just passing along the guidance that I
Right,
got from
right.
the government agencies, so.
I would add to that something to the effect that, that whatever they build would have to pass muster with the state building code through the Scituate Building Department. And if they feel it meets the building code, whatever's proposed would be acceptable.
Well, I think I'd go a little bit further than that, Paul. I think we could close this tonight with Amy's suggestion that subject to an approved foundation. I'd take it a step further to say that I have no problem meeting with some of these people to look at this and say, let's be real. There's only so much that folks can do with a project, and if we want people to elevate their home and get them out of harm's way and work, we have to be realistic in what they can do. Otherwise, it's just not worth their while.
I agree.
So I think we're all trying to work to the end that fits that, and the engineering firms come up with a plan that they're willing to stamp and say that it's going to withstand the storms. So I think that's where we're at.
I'm not fine with that. I think that makes sense.
Can I just make sure I understand? the foundation that exists today will be cut down to grade.
If you look at the plan that they're showing, their proposal for this foundation is to cut away large sections of the concrete so the water can flow through there, and then they're going to reinforce some of the existing concrete. If you still got a plan here for that.
Appears, well, what they'll do is to cut, some of the vertical foundation wall will be cut from the top all the way down to the footing.
Right.
Where they'll install some steel rods, then they'll form a
Need the
pier,
foundation,
go all the
yeah.
way up to the proposed elevation.
Right.
And what they do is to leave sections of the existing wall below grade in the piers. The purpose of that is to hold the sand back. You know,
So-
when you're digging the sand, you take one shovel out, 3 shovels will fall in.
No, I understand all that, but you know what I'd hate to see? Them go for the FEMA grant, and because it isn't done the way CZM wants it, they get denied. Wouldn't that be a crime? So I think we need to have them come out and tell us, all right, tell us what the heck to do here. Because I want them to raise the house up.
Right.
You don't understand,
Yeah, I mean, that's
No,
the
and that's a good
ultimate goal.
idea, bringing them out, because it's one thing, you can sit at a desk and say, there's new technologies, but that's way different from what people are using and the options you have available, you know,
Yeah, so the
realistically.
dotted line is the pre-existing footing, and then
Yes.
this narrow line was the foundation wall. And then these
Okay.
areas here, they're gonna increase the size of the foundation. So instead of concrete piers, they essentially are that, but they're gonna bear on the old foundation, or the old footing, okay?
Okay,
So they start cutting away these sections of foundation,
all right.
down to the finished grade.
Is that on the internet?
See, I'm concerned about the scowl
I
as time
understand.
goes on.
So maybe the resolution coming out of this, that has to be lowered a little bit more.
Yeah,
All right?
I mean, I want to see the house go up, but I
Right.
Okay.
want to see it the best.
All right, so can we get a motion to
Yeah.
close with,
The stipulation that,
well, the foundation, that
Yeah.
they get an approved foundation?
I make a motion to close with the stipulation that we will be seeking an approved foundation.
Second.
Are you good with that?
Yeah, I'll wordsmith it for
Okay.
the special condition, but
Okay. I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. 87 Glades Road.
Oh, I thought this was one. You were 30.
Yeah.
I thought this was you. Because I continued. I thought this is continued. No, I had the wrong one.
Oh,
It was 13 Glades Road.
Okay.
My error. Foundation.
Greg, good to see you back.
Thank you very much.
How's Jeff doing? Is he getting any sleep?
No, he's not. So,
baby doesn't
afraid
want to
not.
sleep?
Yeah, Jeff had a baby boy last week.
Aw,
Thank
nice.
you. For the record, my name is Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. With me is the property owner and applicant, Doris Prairie. This is for a raise and reconstruct of a multifamily building located at 87 Glades Road. 87 Glades Road is an existing 4-unit apartment building. It's located on approximately 3,000 square feet is the lot. I'm going to pass around some pictures. The building that's there right now largely takes up the majority of the lot. Outside of that is gravel area around the back, which is parking. Familiarizing you with the plan, Glades Road is at the bottom of the page. The property line is in black. The existing building is located right here. The proposal is to take down that existing building and put up a new building. The new building would be a 3-unit building. Yeah, it's a downgrade in bedrooms as well. The existing building is 8 bedrooms. We're going down to 6 bedrooms with the proposal. You may recall, I was before this commission about a year ago for the same property for a septic system project. They were having septic issues. At that time, we had permitted a temporary tight tank, and right now the building is serviced by that tight tank. As part of this project, we're actually adding a leaching field to that.
Where?
So with the new building,
In Connecticut.
so with the new building, this is in the floodplain at elevation 15. We're providing 3 feet of freeboard. Our first floor is actually up at elevation 18, which allows us area under the building. It is an open pile foundation that we're proposing. So now we'll have available area under the building for the leaching field. We do have to go to the Board of Health for approval on that on February 11th. I anticipate their approval that night. So I understand we'd like to continue this meeting till after that Board of Health meeting, but I wanted to get this in front of you in case you had any questions or comments that we could address in that time period.
It's not reach for this one back.
Yeah, no, I know where it is, yeah.
We did provide foundation layouts from Rockwood Design and Rivermore outlining the pile locations. Sorry, concrete pier.
Grade with an elevated house.
That's what we're going with here. It is an AE 15. Again, we're 3 feet above that with our first floor at elevation 18. There's no new impervious areas on this site. Any of the disturbed areas are put back as gravel as they currently exist. And again, the addition of the septic system under the building.
Okay.
No, I don't have a problem with any of this.
Paul?
No questions.
Lisa?
Nope, looks good to me.
Amy?
I'm good with it.
Greg,
Okay.
can I just, so it's showing a septic tank going to a D-box and a couple of trenches. So that's being removed?
No, so all of those, what's there right now is, there's an existing 3,000-gallon tank right here.
That's the tight
And that's
tank?
the tight tank. What we're proposing is to convert that tight tank into a septic tank.
Yeah.
And that septic tank would pump to a distribution box, and then these here are leaching
I see the
chambers.
chambers.
Yep, those are the chambers underneath the new building.
So what's happening with this other thing that's in light color?
Oh, that's for 85 Glades Road.
Oh, okay, so over here on the left side, that's the leaching field for number 85, the house next door. So
Why not?
that stays,
On their property.
that's in an easement and stays connected to house number 85.
Okay.
Yep.
You're a good neighbor.
She is the neighbor.
Oh, okay. You own both.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say too, the reason I do
And
a
for the
lot of
record,
I'm Doris Crary, and I have been on the CRS committee
Sure.
for the town of Scituate. And the reason I'm going the 3 feet higher, and I encourage anybody at the meetings to go the 3 feet higher, if you only go to elevation 15, your flood insurance may be rated exactly as it is currently, and in some cases, depending on how you were grandfathered or other things, it can actually get higher. If you go the additional 3 feet, and even 3.5 feet would bring you into the 4-foot range, you automatically get a substantial, you're now in what they call the 500-year floodplain. So like on this house, from $3,000 to probably under $1,000 a year for flood insurance.
Doris, did they give you any relief from height elevation, height restrictions?
No, not really, well, a little.
They do actually. Scituate amended its zoning bylaw about a year and a half ago.
Oh, I was.
So that you're looking at the height now from that base flood elevation.
I wondered if that was gonna happen, because we keep going higher on the,
And what made you choose the concrete over driven piles in this site?
Because in this area, it will be perfectly fine and stable. I mean, I have used, the wood pilings, and I did that on Oceanside.
Right.
When that got elevated. But in this area, this will be more than stable with that
Oh, and they'll last longer and your house won't sway, yeah.
Well,
Well, the
it's,
ones I put in don't sway.
your advice to elevate that, we, years ago, elevated a couple of houses for folks with the old height elevation. They spent all that money to elevate their home. They didn't want to go too much higher because of age and whatnot getting into the house, so they just went a foot over. And then with the new flood FEMA regulations, the poor people are back in a flood zone again.
Right,
So
well,
they spent all that money to elevate, and in 15 years, they wound up back.
and you can end up with serious problems. I know on Oceanside where I was, the 20 feet, which was the requirement there, because I'm on the water side, would never have been enough to get me above really the ferocity of the waves.
Sure.
So going the 3 feet additional, and then with everything else, I mean, my finished floors are over 25, but the top of the pilings are 23 feet
Sure.
and a half, I think.
Well, appreciate your efforts on all that as well. You
Thank
get
you.
it, you understand the,
I was dying to speak out earlier.
it's not a simple task.
No, it's not.
So we're gonna have a motion to continue to,
Okay, well, my problem here is that February 11th is our next meeting, then we don't have one until March 4th. We only have one in February?
Yep,
Okay.
and then there's 3 weeks in between.
is there any way that we can condition this subject to approval by the Board of Health?
I don't know, we don't usually do that, so.
But we're not,
We have done it, though, but you're right, we don't usually.
No.
I
But,
mean, we could have potentially have the orders ready for the next meeting for you to sign, so you could vote and sign, and then then we'll have 21 days to get it out the door, and we just can't. We've got a lot of volume going on, so we don't usually do that.
right,
So I'm not sure we want to commit to that either.
well, so what if we close with, I mean, I know the dilemma is if the Board of Health rejects this, so here's your
And
dilemma.
it's also in front of planning too. So they're waiting for
This is-
feedback from the planning board and architectural design.
This is going before the planning board as well?
Yes.
It is. I don't think you want to close it tonight. I would advise leaving it open at least till the 11th.
Well, I'm telling you, you can either do February 11th,
Yeah, that's what he just asked for.
okay, but Board of Health.
Yeah, we're meeting with Board of Health at 6 o'clock on the 11th.
Oh,
so-
okay, so maybe you can come and
Yeah.
tell us.
Get you at the end of the night.
I make a motion to continue.
put him at 11:30.
at 87
The rate we're going
Road
tonight,
6:20.
To 6:20.
Okay.
On February 11th, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
whose photos did this come from?
Keith, would you like them for the color ones back? Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we're at 3739 Collier. On January 28th, 2019, 6:25 PM, the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of William Trafone Jr. and Stephen Masker to raise and rebuild a dwelling on property located at 37 to 39 Collier Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky, and I represent the applicants. This should be the easiest hearing this evening. You issued an order of conditions for this project in 2015. The clients have been constructing the house. Unfortunately, the general contractor lost track of his dates, so the order has expired. I did ask the Conservation Commission whether they would extend the order. The Commission's preference was to file a new notice of intent. So I'm simply asking the Commission for an order of conditions for the very same project so we can complete the house.
It seemed like we had done this before.
You didn't change, nothing's changed.
No, the house is
Yeah, no,
substantially
I'm saying
complete.
that- I'm just saying, everything's exactly the same.
Yes.
Yep.
And you're not requesting any changes or
No,
additions? or-
modifications.
Okay.
We're all set.
We do have a DEP file number. There were no comments from the
Yeah.
department.
No questions?
Lisa?
Nothing.
Amy?
Correct, right, and it had lapsed significantly enough so that we required the notice.
Yeah.
But I agree, it's the same project, so it should be our easiest hearing of the night.
Don't jinx yourself.
So how long do we want to extend it for?
3 years.
3 years.
It's a new
Oh, no,
one.
it's a brand new water.
a new
Yeah.
water.
Oh,
So it'll be
yeah, that's right, because it expired. Yeah.
For 3 years.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this? Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're just making a comment on,
Your name, sir?
John McIntyre, 22 Collier Road. And, well, we want to see the project we want. It's just, it's been going on for 2 years. And
Yeah.
it's just like, you know, it's just like a nuisance type project, almost, you know?
It has been lingering, that's,
Right, and my only concern is, and again, I want to see these guys get their house built and everything, but if you give it another 3 years, can they technically take another 3 years to build? You know?
so they have, typically, we issue the order for 3 years. The applicant has the right to request an extension
Sure.
beyond that. We really can't deny them that.
Right.
You know, the hope would be that they at least get the exterior completed so that it's stabilized and secure, and that might be something that you pass on to your client, is, you know, we understand they want to do that, they're well within their right to do it, it's a mistake that was made, but it would be good at least to secure and stabilize the exterior around. I know a lot of it was dug up, I know a lot of it's gravel anyways, but,
I think the concern was doing work without a permit in place.
well, maybe at some point here, but, okay. I've had a few projects that have lingered too, so I can't necessarily.
But this has had like blue shield on it for like a year, you know, so it's
Okay.
like getting old, and again, we want to see these guys get it done
Okay.
and move along. It's just,
Okay,
if there was a way to accelerate it, it would be great, you know, an incentive of some sort, but
sure.
I'm just saying.
You guys can all pitch in on the weekend and give them a hand.
I know they've run into some power issues.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't forget who had their hand up next.
I think I did. Brian Jones, 6 Michael Ave, again, a neighbor, butter, been looking at it for, I don't know, probably 2.5 years now, so, mentioned with the contractor lost track of time, well, I would think that we're pretty aware of time at this point. Like John said, we just, it's there. We hope it's gonna be built and finished off, so it's gonna be fitting.
Sure.
I guess my only question would be if you're going for a new, the other one expired, so now we're going for a new
Set of orders.
order of condition. In the last 3 years, have any regulations changed that may impact this project?
It doesn't matter, because it's the regulations in force at the time the project is approved.
Even though it's expired?
I think we'd be hard pressed to make them make
Yeah.
any significant changes, Brian. We hear you with the piece that you'd like to see it done, and I'm sure Mr. Attorney Brodsky's going to pass that information along. And to the best of my knowledge, you know, elevation-wise and everything, they're in the right spots.
We actually need this to finish, so,
Sounds good.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Frank Nelson from 8 Lincoln Ave. My question is just in regard to, obviously echoing what Nina just said, but the site itself has never been really kept really clean. They've had no trash container. I thought that was something.
It
so
should be.
bad.
Yeah, they,
So I've taken plenty of pictures, but basically we end up, you know, some of that extra building materials and trash for construction hasn't really been a priority of the building.
okay. We can make note of that. And that should be part of our orders. Yes, sir.
Paul Bowers, 7 Lincoln Ave. I'd like to see if the Conservation Commission could take time to send the agent down there and take a look at the scarring that's gone on between the seawall and the site. There used to be a drainage system that exited in front of that, was an easement that the town abandoned and then moved to the edge of the lot. So mysteriously, this large concrete structure during the last couple of years
has disappeared. They used to have a manhole cover that could maintain the drainage system, and now they've constructed a pipe.
Well, we conditioned that. We allowed, there was
Yeah.
apparently, when if I remember right, there were two structures. They tore them both down. There was an easement that ran through their property with the drainage. Part of the orders were that we allowed them to move that pipe to the side.
Right.
So,
So I guess somehow that concrete structure is gone, but in addition to the storm that we've experienced since then, have created a very dangerous depression between the seawall and this lot.
okay.
And they've done absolutely nothing to maintain that. In addition to not having a dumpster, they have no electrical service into the construction site. And so they maintain a noisy generator the whole time they're working in there. It cycles on and off. It shows an extreme disregard for the neighbors. And it would be nice if there was some way or some law that you guys knew about to accelerate a project like this or maintain, in a sense that if people go on the beach, it's a generator and droning all day long. The lot is just a disaster. It's not being maintained with trash there.
Sure.
And if someone were to try to climb along that wall, which is public access, when they reach this property, there's a big ditch there from all the scouring that's going on during the storms. And I think they would want to come to you and come up with some type of solution for that. An interim solution, but it's...
Yeah, I don't remember if there was anything in their orders from before about work on the detention area or not. I don't think so. But
All they did was run the pipe in. There was no valving or anything to keep water running better. It fills in and flowing back into this new drainage system into the street drain there.
Sure.
And it's sort of a mysterious connection between the drain across the street. So now all the water comes down the hill. It's going through the right-of-way that was created between the house and the build next door.
I'm assuming, we can ask, but I'm assuming the DPW reviewed that work and
We've
made,
checked, and it's all reviewed, but
okay.
the reality, I would think because this is in a coastal zone area, that you guys might have, at least have some ability to control what they're doing there.
So Amy, when you stepped out of the room, excuse me, so the question, one of the few things was, people are frustrated with the long time that it's taken to get this
I heard that,
project
yeah.
moved along. Trash and debris, we usually have some sort of orders, and we can make sure we have that there's a dumpster on site and the trash and debris is managed, and it's not just blowing around. And we've done that before.
Yeah.
On various sites where people have to take care of that. It's just, we don't want it all over the place. And then
I think it's a condition in our orders
Yep.
already, yeah.
And then there's some scouring going on the other side of the seawall. Some of the overwash from the storms has washed some of this out. And I don't remember anything about maintaining that or doing anything with it, but, and I'm not really sure how much we can really affect that. I don't think they came to us with any provisions to repair or do anything to that seawall.
No, that was not part of the project.
Right.
So I will certainly communicate this to the homeowners.
Yep.
Again, with respect to time, I was hoping for an extension, which would have shortened the period of time.
Sure.
But we're now in a notice of intent process.
And the other thing at this
I have
point with the
no objection
bill-
with
yeah.
respect to conditions regarding debris. Regarding the generator, that's an issue for the building department?
It is,
so-
but it's probably also time, I mean, with the building up, I don't see why they can't get electrical service.
I don't disagree, but it's not really your
I understand.
jurisdiction.
But a generator actually sitting there with gas in it and stuff during a storm is, so we could check that if we had to.
So again, I will communicate all of these concerns to the homeowners and encourage them to,
I mean, I've noticed the generator chained to this piling too, and then there's a gas can sitting there, or the gas can stored in the porta potty
Yeah.
kind of thing, and if that gets slipped over, then it's a pollution issue, so it kind of is. Yes, sir.
Just to reiterate on that line, there's a house going up right next door to it. They got they had temporary power in there.
Yeah, everybody's got a different way of doing it. I've seen contractors run generators. It baffles me why people want to do that, but, and again, to Mr. Attorney Brodsky's point, we don't really have jurisdiction over that, but we do have pollutants and stuff on site that needs to be managed properly, and I'm not sure storing a gas can in the porta potties, really managing it all that well. Okay,
All right.
we have a few other things to do tonight.
So I make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
4 Revere Street. So on January 28, 2019, 6:30 PM, the Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Joseph
What's your friend's house? Come on.
Lotsy to construct and maintain a pier, canoe and kayak rack, ramp, and float on dwelling at property located at 4 Revere Street, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
No. Can't yawn.
Oh, sure.
It's contagious.
Sure. Jen, we got about a notification from Collier, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
You know what, now that we're talking about a butter notification, is...
Can you guys take the conversation down the hall? Don't close the door, it's hotter than hell in here.
Yeah, so Frank, it was brought to my attention that a butter notification was not put out for the 17A water treatment plant, which was continued. And so
Yeah.
that was the one where you read the, did you read the, oh no, you haven't gotten
We
yet.
haven't gotten to that. That's the
Oh,
last
okay,
one.
so when we get to it at the last one, you'll read the public hearing notice. But we already know there's an abutter notification deficiency.
Okay.
So I think that they're gonna need
Should
to
we even open it?
re-advertise it.
Yeah?
Well, let's deal with
I
that.
don't know. Should we even open it? That's
I don't
what-
know.
Yeah,
We'll get
Why
there.
would we open it if there's no butter
Why are we talking
notification?
about it until we get there?
because we had a lull.
Let's go.
Are we all done? Can I go home now?
Just about.
Again, my name's Kevin McGuire. We're the folks that put together the plans and the documents for Mr. and Mrs. Motzi. Not unfortunately, but they're not here with me. They're the smart people. They're in Florida. We're here.
We're enjoying this one.
Yeah.
So far, so
You
good.
cut it to the quick, we'll cut to the quick, Kevin. Let's go.
Okay, just there's a house, there's a lot, there's the pier, there's the canoe and kayak rack, and there's the boat and the ramp. And piers, total length of the pier is about 137 feet. The ramp will start off on the grass area of the property, go over a little bit of a wall, which you can see up here at this cross section, then hit the pier, go out to the end of the pier. There's a little canoe and kayak rack about 4 feet wide, 17 feet long, down to a 30-foot long ramp to a 12 by 24 tile float. The float's about 60 feet off the channel.
Okay.
Along the edge of the plan, you can see all of the resource areas, affected, including Scituate's saltwater district and tidelands. And the notice of intent and the attachment A explains the amount of materials that will be disturbed because of the piles and the posts that will support the pier. There's a cross-section which comes along here, which is up top, gives you a pretty good look at it. How it goes out over the salt marsh, then down onto the intertidal, and then out into the river. And this is just a little cross-section through here that shows you how the thing's going to be constructed. There are 2 cross-sections. One shows the piles, and one shows the posts. The posts are over the marsh, the piles are over the intertidal, and then the piles that are holding the float, which is in the substrate. And here's a little sketch of what the crack looks like. When we filed for this, we notified the harbor master. We talked with the harbor master. We got his receipt. We also notified Marine Fisheries, and we got their receipt. We also notified the state nets and the federal nets. And again, should point out, when we're going through this process and we file for the Chapter 91 license, again, we'll have to notify Marine Fisheries, and we'll have to notify the harbor master. So here we go.
Penny?
Looks good to me, Kevin.
Paul? Good. Lisa?
Fine.
Amy?
Yeah, I'm fine. Also, there was a findings letter from Division of Marine Fisheries. They're concerned about the blue mussel.
Right.
So they did have some comments on the orientation. And
We didn't get a copy of that on what? Sorry.
oh, you did not get a copy of
No.
this? Oh, okay. Let me give it to you then.
Yeah, we also notified the Shellfish Constable, and we haven't heard back from him. Typically, the letter to him, again, you have a copy accompanying the notice of intent, and says that there are mussels according to the GIS maps that the state prints, and if he wants us to do anything, please contact us. And we haven't heard from him.
Kevin, are you driving or jetting these?
They're all, there's a little tripod that will do them on the marsh. They set up the tripod.
Yep.
And they'll knock them in, they'll pile drive them in, and a barge will have to knock the ones in.
So they're driven?
They're driven.
Okay. And you're well out of the channel with the...
60 feet back from the channel.
And we've got something from Waterways or Harbor Master?
I do not have anything in writing from the harbor master. I just have this Marine Fisheries comment letter, which is really related to the dock itself and like the slat ratio and height, width, and stuff like that.
Marine Fisheries requires, they like to see 3/4 of an inch between the planking. This thing shows an inch, and you have to be 5 feet for the lowest joist going across above the marsh at the height.
Yep.
And that plan also.
I got an earful from somebody on Waterways that they felt like they sort of got this notice so late.
This
that
particular one?
for these projects that they don't really get the opportunity to weigh in before they're closed.
Waterways?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a conversation with the
But-
harbor master about this particular one, and he was good with this one.
Okay.
But,
Well, yeah, I think he
Didn't
sort of
send it out to
represents,
Waterways.
I think he sort of represents,
Oh, you're talking about the town waterways?
Yes.
Yeah.
The same day we filed with this, we also filed with the clerk's office. Our selectman gave him a copy of the letter and the file and the plan.
I guess his gripe was that all this stuff goes into his mailbox, and if he doesn't check his mailbox frequently enough, that some of this stuff gets by them.
To check his mailbox.
He's gonna check his mailbox.
That's
I'm
not
just
my fault.
conveying the information that I get here, but.
We're going to shoot the messenger.
If the harbor master's weighed in, I think we're good. Okay. All right, anybody in the audience?
I make a motion to close.
Second.
Kevin, I'm glad you're still doing these.
Yeah, it's good to
Thank you.
see you,
Good
Kevin.
seeing you again.
But you told us the last time was the last time we were gonna see you.
Yeah, I keep on saying the same thing. I got another tax bill.
Yeah.
Scituate tax bill.
Appreciate your thorough work on these. Have a good night.
Thank you.
We didn't vote.
Oh,
We got a...
I got a motion? Second, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
There we go. 606 CJC, athletic track, fields, renovations, concession stand. The applicant is Maura Glancy, Town of Scituate. Representative Sean O'Connell. Activitas? Activitas. On January 28th, 2019, at 6:35 PM, the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, and Section 32050, the Town of Scituate Stormwater Bylaw regarding the application of the Town of Scituate for an athletic track and field renovations, as well as construction of a new concession stand and apparatus on property located at 606 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you guys?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm Sean O'Connell, I'm a landscape architect with Activitas, presenting on behalf of Motor Landscape and the Rec Department today. So I'm going to give a brief overview of what the project is, and then we get more of the nitty-gritty details of what's being proposed outside. So, Yan High School looking to renovate the existing athletic fields, JV baseball field, multi-purpose field, varsity baseball field, and the track and field itself. There's a number of challenges out there on site currently. Title IX being a big one. There's no softball field, as there's a couple baseball fields out there. There's accessibility challenges out there. None of the bleacher systems at the track and field are code compliant or accessible. There's no accessible route to and from the bleachers in the parking lot. The parking lot itself, where the handicap spaces are currently not accessible. The backstop area for spectator seating and the dugouts at the baseball field, currently not accessible. And there's really no accessible route around the facility itself. The track itself is non-regulation. It slopes about 2 feet from this end to this end. The turf itself is past its lifetime, needs to be badly replaced. So that's kind of the history of what we're looking at, why we're looking at it. So the proposed condition, I'll start with the track and field itself. So the track is going to be a renovated, more or less in place, 6-lane oval, 8-lane straightaway, new synthetic turf system. The track itself, as you can maybe kind of see between the two, you rotate it about 5 degrees to pull this outside of the wetland buffer a little bit more. There's actually a 50-foot buffer currently, so we're looking to rotate that outside of that 50-foot buffer. As part of this renovation, there'll be new spectator bleachers, which will be accessible, the pathway around the southern portion of the site. Again, new bleachers on the home side, accessible from everywhere on site. Elevated press box with a wheelchair lift, again, getting access to the top of that. New concrete plaza area in the southern portion of the track and field. Currently, there's a discus and shot put throwing area to the north of the track, which are both in the wetland buffer areas. Proposing to move that to the southern end of the site, outside of both of those buffers. As we move further west, the baseball field will be converted from a natural grass field to synthetic turf. The orientation of the baseball field is going to flip to provide better orientation for solar purposes. That'll also act as a multi-purpose field for soccer and lacrosse's field hockey. As part of that, we'll also be providing accessible team areas, spectator seating areas, more or less. So then we go further west, new softball field will replace the existing multi-purpose JV baseball field. The orientation of that also flips for solar orientation purposes. Again, we have access to and from the parking lot, concrete plaza area, up to the team areas and the spectator seating area. All three facilities receive new LED lighting systems, energy efficient systems. With a lot of the topsoil that's going to be generated from these conversions of natural grass to synthetic turf, proposing landscape berms where we have room to fill in the site. We're going to the hillside adjacent to the Cushing Field down into the site and kind of divide the two spaces a little bit and use some of that extra earthwork we're generating. The concession stand we talked about will be located down the southern end of the site near the track. It's replacing the concession stand we have out there right now with concession stand with bathrooms for both men and women. The existing ticket booth will remain, the existing pavilion will remain, and yeah. So I'll turn it over to Tim now to talk about one of the stormwater utility details.
Thank you. For the record, Tim Power, a professional civil engineer in Massachusetts, working with Activitas on this project. So, just to take a quick step back, I always like to say why we're here. Obviously, we have the three wetland systems, one to the west, one to the east, and an isolated wetland to the north. We will be proposing work within the 100-foot buffer for that, and also have a drainage system associated with this project that will discharge to those wetlands. So that triggers us for the notice of intent, which is why we're here. The wetlands were previously flagged as an ANRAD process, so they're set and established for this project. This helped us focus our design and really meet our criteria. As Sean mentioned, we've done the best we can to move everything, and given some review with Amy ahead of time, we tweaked this field to make sure we could get it out of the 50-foot buffer. Maybe a little bit of work as due to the field, but this will be restored to natural conditions when it's done. Similar to this side, just to get this configuration to work, but at the end of the day, the 50-foot buffer gets returned to a nice naturalized buffer for the wetland system area. So, stormwater is actually fairly easily dealt with the fields because of the nature of the synthetic field system. If you don't know, the surface you see on top, we call that the rug with the grass and the infill material. Below that is a section about 8 inches of stone, which we utilize for stormwater control through all the fields. One of the challenges we had was these fields up here had a little bit, had shallow groundwater, so recharge wasn't a good opportunity here. However, the soil's improved despite the grades that this is about 10 feet higher than this field. The test pits showed the groundwater was lower here, the soils were better. So in essence, what we're going to try to do is overcompensate our recharge to under this field where we get the ground. Here will simply just be control stormwater. Basic drainage patterns under existing conditions. The center of the field really flows down through the parking lot in the parking lot system. This side generally goes this way. This side generally goes down to this wetland system or through the isolated wetland and overflows again to this wetland system to the east. We're going to mimic those. We're going to minimize the runoff that flows off the fields to the parking lot, which will hopefully improve that drainage system that's already in the ground. We'll be controlling some of the stormwater flows under these fields. From this field and these impervious areas here will be collected, detained in the field, and overflowed to the wetland on the side. The field in the middle and the football field will all be collected and sent through the subsurface stone in this field, and the football field will also have a series of chambers, contact units, as you typically see under the field, for help with storage, help with control, and help with recharge. One of the items that we presented in our stormwater report and that we've talked to the Recreation Department about is that this is a seasonal use, so that in the winter there's not sanding and treatment of the impervious areas. So we don't see a need for water quality controls beyond what we have for just some sumps in some of the area drains and the recharge that's there, because the pollutant loading you'd see from a parking lot or whatnot is not really there. It's not treated in winter. Perhaps in the late fall football game, Thanksgiving, there might be some snow and maybe just some light treatment there, but not the same type of loading required. So we've noted in our drainage report that we don't need to meet that standard for that reason and describe that. The drainage report and calculations were reviewed by the peer review engineer for the town. We did have an opportunity.
Who was that?
Merrill Engineering, David Keller.
Yep.
We did have a chance to review those. We're going to implement some of the comments. I did talk to Deb too about some other questions, and we seem to get a consensus on all of her items that we can address them adequately. Nothing really worried me in the review. Nothing substantially would change from our approach here. We think the stormwater is well mitigated for any impervious, and most of the impervious increase is really from sort of this plaza area, and there's some walkways around. Those are actually collected just through grass swales and routed away, so we have some natural drainage happening. Not everything is through catch basins and pipes. Erosion controls is as you would typically expect. We'll have perimeter controls all around any downgradient areas on the project. We prepared a draft SWIP to be finalized by the contractor selected, and whatever their particular means and methods of getting the project done will help minimize disturbance to the soil, while the athletic department would like to minimize impact to the fields and the use of the fields. I think just by the nature of the projects, it may be sequenced somewhat. So I don't think this entire thing will be stripped at one time. But at the same time, they'll be hitting it as quickly as they can so they can get it all done out of the way, get it back to place. So beyond that, there's not too much out of the ordinary. I'm happy to answer lots of questions. I didn't want to get into quantities of mashing what the 100-year flow was. We have that information, happy to share it, but if any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Penny?
Quite the project. I don't really have any questions. I think they've done a really good job. I've seen many presentations already on this, and yeah, I don't really have any concerns.
Paul?
Looks good.
Lisa?
It looks good. I do have one question.
Yes.
What is the turf made of, the backing and the fibers? What is the material?
Backing fibers and
yeah.
Mark Novak, I'm the design principal with Activitas. I'm also a Scituate resident with 7 Boston Road. The turf material it's an all synthetic material. It's polyethylene fibers, and the backing is a geotextile fabric that is coated with urethane. And that the polyurethane backing holds the fibers in place. And then inside of the turf is a sand and crumb rubber infill. And that infill gives the turf the natural grass characteristics that you want in terms of resiliency and impact attenuation.
I'm just curious because of kids playing on
No,
turf.
it's good stuff.
It's dipped in plutonium, and then they coat it with arsenic.
Thank you very much.
Well, this is a great project. Obviously, we're so excited for the town to have this project proposed, and we are glad to be part of the permitting process. It's under review by our peer review engineer.
Yeah.
We did get our first findings letter, so glad that you're taking the comments in consideration and working through what Deb had to say. Chances are, it's a kind of a back and forth, so there'll be a little bit of back and forth, I'm sure, before we're through with this whole thing. I haven't had a chance to thoroughly review what buffer mitigation, restoration, areas, and whether or not, we should be looking for something, if they meet our requirements or not, but we'll certainly give that another review once we get a little bit further on the stormwater. So that's my comment.
Yeah, we'd probably ask for a restoration plan.
Well, we'll take a
Within
look
a-
at the total impacts in the area that goes into the 50s. I mean, it's complicated in that there's already some disturbance that occurred, so they're not making it worse. So in some cases, they're certainly making it better. So we'll take a look at it.
Anybody in the audience speak to this? A couple of questions. So we're dealing with a fairly large site that's being developed right now and a lot of erosion control issues. So just thinking ahead, this is a pretty large area, and I understand the objective would be to try to get as much done in a fairly short period of time. We just heard that, I realize when you pick a contractor, you're going to then talk about some staging and things could happen differently, but if this whole area gets disturbed all at once and then we have some fairly major rain event or whatever, I think preparations for that sort of thing are important. You do have a wetland on either side, so runoff, siltation, whatever, would be pretty critical, and the contractor needs to be aware of it, and maybe some provisions to think about that ahead of time, so that...
Sure, and just to speak to that, one of the comments from the review engineer was, are there going to be use of sediment ponds and other erosion controls? So as part of that review, I think we're going to add a little bit to the site preparation and erosion control plans we had submitted that may show some, preferred locations, we'll say, for sediment ponds and diversion swales to help guide them. at the end of the day, we can sort of outline, what criteria they have to meet, but it always comes down to that means and methods issue, so we can't tell them exactly how to do it, just what to do.
Well,
So-
with the exception of, obviously, you're working with a wetland right on either side of it and a school, so you're going to disturb a fairly large area, so I think it needs to be clear to them that that's an important piece of that.
Absolutely. And I think the order of conditions goes into the contracts, and the contractor is required to maintain it. And again,
As part of the orders will be a SWIP, so it's not just a draft, I mean, there will be a stormwater permit with the pollution prevention plan, and it'll all be spelled out. But I mean, I think...
How's that working out for us right now?
Well, right. Anyways, but I think that Frank brings up a really good point of if we can get it down as to maybe a commitment on phasing the project so that you do lessen, make the area of disruption smaller. But anyway, so you can give that some thought as to whether you can come in with a construction sequence that phases it. There's one field takes dominance over another.
Are you trying to do all of this in one season?
No, it's impossible, I think, in order to do it all in one season. So, and I think, in terms of phasing, looking at it from the town's recreational program and also from the school's athletic program, ideally, if one field could be kept online while a couple of the other fields are being renovated and then move over, that would probably be the ideal situation. But in the end, I mean, this is going to have a temporary, but it's going to have a big impact on the athletic and recreational programs in town. So, major goal is to get it done as quickly as possible.
And that's understandable, but you also hear aware, that's a big area.
Absolutely. And I understand what's happening on Hadley and
Right.
So. Right, but so I mean, you can maybe do the football field first, get that stabilized and move on to the baseball.
And that is the primary target. So right now, the way we're looking at it from a construction scheduling standpoint is to start on the track and infield area and have that completed by Thanksgiving. The idea is hopefully to have the football team playing their Thanksgiving game against Hingham in there. And then the remainder of the project will continue into the spring of 2020. That's assuming we start construction July 1st of this year.
Okay. Was there anything from that National Heritage on the eastern striped snail that they have to let them migrate through there?
You have to build corridors.
Not yet.
We can't move them. They have to move on their own, and then once they're out of the way, we can.
Yeah, the snail, yeah.
All right.
One of the other things that Mark and I had discussed was a letter of support for
the overall intent of the project, acknowledging the need and the overall intent of the project to improve the athletic fields and track behind the high school. So just a little bit of background, we're actively working with the CBC right now to gain their support and hoping that they can help fund a good portion of this project. And they have requested support letters. And we've given them a whole bushel barrel full of support letters, but a lot of them are really from transparent here. They're from boosters and they're from end users.
Sure.
So we have gotten some from schools, maybe we've gotten some from other organizations as well, but one from the Commissioner.
So the only thing, and I think we're all know that this is all important, and I'm always cautious about endorsing a project that we're conditioning.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why
I think there's no doubt that this is important, and we all see that, and it looks like you guys have done your diligence in terms of putting together a good project, going with the engineers, talking about this. We don't ever want to bias ourselves to the point, so we'll talk about that. We'll see what we can come up with. Are we doing the stormwater, is planning involved in this?
Yes, we're doing the stormwater for planning.
Okay.
But they're also going to planning, so planning will be relying on the stormwater review.
And we try to work together on that piece. So I hear where you're coming from. Let's see what we can put together that makes sense. All right? If you wind up with an aggrieved neighbor later on that says, you know, the Conservation Commission, you know, just pushed this along without any diligence, that's not a good thing either, but.
Can I just make a comment on that? What I believe is Gary's looking for letters before we go to town meeting on this project, and I would hope that by the time we go to town meeting that we might have already conditioned it. So at that point in time,
Got it.
there's no reason we couldn't,
Yep.
you know, give you a letter.
Sure.
And Gary.
So as those snails are out of the way, we'll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of our design schedule, we're hoping to be out to public bid in the middle of March.
Yeah. It all goes through.
Paul's not working on this, is he?
No.
Good.
No.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we continue this to March 4th, to allow the stormwater review to hopefully get tightened up and done by the next time you guys come back, and hopefully we can maybe close.
When is planning, when are you gonna go before planning?
Town meeting's the next week.
Huh?
February 7th.
February 7th. And you'll be going to them more than once as well, pending this stormwater.
Well, so why don't we move them to the 11th, why don't we continue to the 11th? Planning board will have a chance to have reviewed it. Worst case scenario, we can move it on again. If they've got any new information, they can give that to us.
No, you're right, I have a conflict.
Go to March 4th, because then we'll have it hopefully done and through the stormwater with revisions.
Do you think an order will be drafted for that March 4th if we can get you all the information in there?
No, but we can hopefully talk about it in a final way, you know.
So they'll have already been to planning.
Yeah.
And we'll, and Merrill's doing the review for both of us.
Correct.
So why wouldn't we continue to the 11th?
Well, we can continue to the 11th, but.
And there may be some additional
But we've
information.
got agendas that look like this, Frank, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yep.
So, and I just think that it would be beneficial if we went through the process rather than come back. But we don't have to hear you on the 11th if you haven't, you know, gotten us revised plans and it's been signed off by the engineer. You know what I mean? So that if it's all set, then
I think we should
we could take it.
do the 11th. We can continue it if we need to.
Sure.
If they had made some changes, it's the time to come back and get it, so that then by March, if,
We'll definitely be ready.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be here all night either, and if Penny turns this goddamn heat up any higher.
I know, it's me, I'm over here.
All right,
It's like an oven.
the 11th.
I make a motion. Does
She's
anyone
good.
want to talk? I make a motion to continue, what are we continuing?
11.
606 Chief Justice Cushing Athletic Track and Fields to 6:20 on the 11th.
Second?
Please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good luck with your project. 18 Evangeline Drive. On January 28, 2019, at 6:40 PM, the Town Hall Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Patrick McNamara to construct a new pool and patio on property located at 18 Evangeline Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening. Greg Morris, Morris Engineering, for the record. Representing the property owner, Patrick McNamara, is with us tonight. This is a notice of intent for us at a single-family home at 18 Evangeline Drive to allow the construction of a pool in the backyard. Evangeline Drive is at the bottom of the plan here. This is on the cul-de-sac. The property line is shown in black. The house is located right here centrally on the lot. The lot consists of a little over 22,000 square feet of area, all of which is upland. The wetland is a bordering vegetative wetland. This was delineated by John Zimmer in November of 2018. It closely resembles the wetland that was approved originally when the Evangeline subdivision was installed. Off of that in red is the 50-foot buffer, and in green, the 100-foot buffer. As you'll see, the pool is in the rear of the house between the 50 and the 100. The pool itself is located 60 feet from the BVW. The limit of work is 52 feet from the BVW. We've proposed what I've highlighted in orange as a mulch sock at the limit of work as an erosion control barrier. This backyard where the pool's going right now is...
No, leave it open. It's too hot. It's too hot in here.
Sorry.
The backyard where this is proposed right now is existing lawn area. It would all be restabilized with the pool, a pervious patio around it, and landscaping. I turn it over to you.
Penny?
It's all grass now, so it's all
Correct.
disturbed. You're not cutting any trees now.
It goes into the tree line by about 2 feet, so there might be a little bit of brush that's coming down
Brush,
the back,
not
but
trees.
nothing significant. no.
Nothing mature.
Did we condition a lawn there when Evangeline was?
You had the limit of work shown at that location, and the drainage calculations for Evangeline included additional pool and patio areas at the lots for stormwater runoff purposes.
Okay.
Okay. I'm all set.
Paul?
No, it's out of the 50, looks good.
Lisa?
I agree. Looks fine.
Tight.
Amy?
It appears to meet the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate bylaw.
Do we, when we conditioned Evangeline Drive, our experts in the room, on this one, were there any other conditions regarding this at the time?
I didn't do the original permitting there, but I'm not aware of any. I didn't see anything attached to the deed that would prohibit this. Evangeline, I believe, was an open space development. There's open space around it. All of the 50-foot buffer on this lot is off locus. There weren't any restricted areas on this property.
Okay.
Right, and I asked the building commissioner about the lot, because it shows the building envelope. But as long as the pool structure itself is within the building envelope, that he indicated it was approvable, so
It's just really close.
it's on the line.
Steve?
Yeah, I was the original developer of Evangeline Drive, and when we did this and did the open space, we designed it so that we made it virtually impossible for the people who own the lots to encroach to conservation where you wouldn't be able to approve it. And as far as the stormwater is concerned, we originally designed the subdivision with a wider roadway for more impervious area and built a smaller roadway, so the impervious area is a lot less than what it would have been. So there is a safety factor built into the stormwater management, and I think as you've seen, it's probably the largest basin in town. So,
Didn't he say he was going to leave if we did his RDA?
I did leave, just so you know. Specifically for this, as far as the drainage is concerned, because there's a huge safety factor in this subdivision, figuring that people might want to put a pool or something like that in, so that's why I came back.
So it just, Greg, there's sort of a broken line here. It's showing fencing for the pool.
Sure.
And then it sort of stops.
Along the back?
Yeah.
Yeah. The darker one.
Yeah. I mean, that fence would have ultimately have to connect to the house itself, so it would wrap around the patio on both sides.
So where it goes, is it going like straight across the back on the property line, or do we know?
Yeah, I think we'd have it straight across the back at the limit of work. So it's going to be inside of the property. It would be at the limit of work, right at the edge of the tree line. And then it would connect up to where the house is.
Yeah, you can see on the other side where it picks up again.
Gee, the owner's here. So the fence for the back of this property, it's not clear on the plan where this fencing's going. So is the plan to run this fence along the property line, or is it to run it along the tree line?
Well, as you know, the fence is going to be required to be around the pool, so.
Right.
When we're working with the landscape architect who's inside of that, but, I mean, obviously, we're aware of the property boundary there. If there's any limitation, then we have to work within. It hasn't been officially determined where it's going to be, but we're aware of it.
What was your name?
My name is Patrick McNamara.
So you see it, Frank, tying into the front left corner of the
Yeah,
house.
I got all that.
Over, down, just to the tree line, and then same for the back corner, over, down the lot line, over to the tree line.
Why does it come in like that?
Why does it come in?
No, at the back.
At the back?
Yeah.
Well, it runs along the property line here, and then out back, it runs essentially along the tree line.
Oh, all right.
As opposed to the property line,
Yeah,
which is in the
yeah.
woods.
But I guess it's not clear which way the fence is going. I guess my concern would be that, so if they run the fence along the property line,
Yeah.
which someone would be inclined to do, then is the area that's between the fence and the tree line going to wind up getting cleared?
Gotcha.
I'm not a fence installer. The goal is probably to have a black chain link fence.
Right.
And I'd imagine what they probably require some posts to be put in there, right?
But
So,
there's still we seem to kind of dance around the question. So there's a tree line that runs into this backyard, and we're encroaching some on that tree line, which, if that's permittable, then,
Yeah, so the tree line at this spot here is, from the lot line to the edge of the tree line is about 5 feet, maybe 8 feet.
Yep.
At that location. So the fence would be in that 8 feet along the tree line at that spot.
okay.
That.
So it's going to follow the tree line,
It's going
yeah.
to follow the tree line, so.
We're not
we
going
can
in
keep
the
it
woods with it.
5 to 8 feet off the back lot line. We're putting it right along the back of the woods, not in the woods.
oh, no need to go.
We got another fence issue coming up after this, so,
Yeah, so it'll be along the tree line.
okay. I mean, if it's outside of jurisdiction, and that's what's going to happen, then it can happen, but it ought to be on the plan what's going to happen.
Sure. I can add the fence to make it a little more clear along the tree line there, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Steve?
I would just say that the tree line that you see that was on the original subdivision doesn't necessarily depict where the trunks of the trees are. You know, so, I mean, it's got some overstory on top of it
Yeah.
from the original.
I just want what's going to be built to be on the plan.
And I haven't seen the plan, so.
You know, and whatever it is, and we can go from there, but there's too many times when this is gray, and then all of a sudden the fence is back into the buffer zone or some other area.
Sure. So the entire property is outside
Side
the
of the
50 either way?
Right, but it's in the 100.
But it is. So can I get you a revised plan and perhaps push for an order of conditions at
Yeah,
the next meeting?
and I guess the only thing I would say, Greg, is maybe talking with your client, if that's the case and things are going to be cleared, then maybe they should be thinking about a few plantings or something across the back of here.
Sure.
It's inside the 100-foot buffer, you know, there's going to be some sort of, it is in the 100-foot buffer.
Yeah, we did have a preliminary landscape plan prepared for it, so I can submit that.
That'd be great.
As well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
It
can
is.
add to that one thing. I know that the wetlands were clearly marked, so we're well aware where that buffer is, which is beyond our.
Right, but you are inside the
We
100,
don't need no fence.
you're outside the 50, but you're still inside the 100-foot
That's
buffer.
correct, yes.
So what we look for in that 100-foot buffer is some form of protection. You know, typically, that would just be lawn or shrubs or trees. In this case, you're adding a pool and a patio. So,
I do know too, I don't know if it's on the plans that Craig has, that we have plans for mitigation plantings, there's grasses and.
that's all. I'm just saying, if there's some things like that we know, and they can change a little bit. We're not trying to be hard and fast, but I think it's important that we have a clear plan.
This is, Duxbury Gardens had prepared this. It does depict kind of the same limit as we're showing there for the work. I'll overlay that on our plan and call out the fence a little more clearly. That wasn't submitted as part of the NOI just because it's a landscape rendering essentially.
Okay.
But that was the intent all
Got it.
along, is that type of landscape.
Okay.
So,
I'm sure it'll look great.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the goal, I mean, we appreciate the natural beauty back there, so we don't want it to disrupt it, so the whole goal is to make it seem.
Right.
So.
Yep. I appreciate it. Okay. And we appreciate you being here now instead of doing it after the fact or some other. Okay. Thank you. Can we hang on to that? You got an extra copy?
I do. Yep.
All right. Anybody else?
So continue to February 11th?
Yeah.
All right, and you'll get us.
You don't want to close, just subject
With the
to
new
the...
fence.
Yeah, we could.
Let's just close and condition that we need, he said, he showed us where the fence was going to be, we just condition that we need the
Unless you think you're going to change it.
I mean, the Duxbury Gardens layout is the same layout that we're going with.
Oh, yeah.
If we close this, if we close the hearing, take the information, you can't add any more. So
And you can't change.
you
And
can't,
he can't revise his plan either.
Yeah.
right. So you,
So I mean, can we continue it to the 11th
Yeah.
and, you know, talk
Yeah.
about having maybe a draft order of conditions at that time? I'll get you any revised plans ahead of that meeting.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion to continue 18 Angela Drive to 6:20 on February 11th.
The second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck.
You're welcome. 18.
So 109 Jericho Road, they've requested a
Continuance.
continuance, but we still have to open it. For disclosure, I did spend some time with this applicant talking about his project. I mean, I'm happy to open it. I don't think we're going to be doing anything
Yeah,
here.
we're not gonna talk.
No, we're just going to open it, but do we have the abutter cards for 109 Jericho?
Hey, Greg, do we have a butter cards for 109 Jericho?
I did not bring them with me, no, but they have been notified.
They have, can you get them to us
Yes, I
first
will.
thing in the morning?
Yes, I will.
Okay. So on January 28th, 2019, 6:45 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, and Section 32050, Town of Scituate Stormwater Bylaw, regarding the application for John and Daniel Wolf to raise and reconstruct a single-family dwelling on property located at 109 Jericho Road, Scituate. Abutters and interested parties are invited to attend. So we're
I
gonna,
make a motion to continue 109 Jericho Road to February 11th at 6:20.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 16 Booth Hill Road, after the fact NOI, on January, January 28th, 2019, 6:50 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, regarding the application of Jamie Davenport to regrade lawn on property located at 16 Booth Hill Road, Scituate. Butters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Craig Morris, representing the property owner, James Davenport. This is an after-the-fact notice of intent for some regrading that Mr. Davenport had done at the rear at 16 Booth Hill Road. Booth Hill Road is at the bottom of the page here. The house is kind of centrally located on the lot. The lot itself does extend back, though, and at the back of the property, highlighted in blue, is a wetland associated with a perennial river. Off of that, we have the 200-foot riverfront area, which is the line in green. What I've hatched on the plan here is the area of the backyard that Mr. Davenport had regraded, reloamed, in a sense reseeded. Of that shaded-in area, approximately 3,600 square feet is the area that's in your jurisdiction. This picture here represents what the backyard looked like previous to the work that was done. You can see that there was lawn area back there, but kind of on the outskirts of the lawn was kind of some scrub trees along the side. And what's even further shown on this plan is around the perimeter here is a chain link fence, okay? So that was the pre-work picture of what was there.
Penny, you don't know about this, right?
I don't about it.
Okay.
It's up, my land doesn't touch it.
So,
and I'm not in the property.
Okay.
So my firm was contacted after the work had been done. Mr. Davenport did provide to me a plan that had been done back in 2013, prior to the work being done. That is referenced on our plan. It was by Grady Consulting. Grady Consulting had located the limits of that chain link fence. That's what I've highlighted in orange. So again, all of the work was within the limits of that chain link fence. That also depicted what the existing tree line and lawn surface was at that time. Mr. Davenport says they did take out a couple of trees that were 4 inches or smaller, but they left any of the large trees within the tree line. They brought in some fill, they re-leveled, they re-loamed and seeded. When he was notified of the violations, he installed a silk fence around the limit of work, which again, these are the pictures that were taken the day that we were notified. You see the silk fence that was placed at the limit of work, which was the chain link fence that was out there. And it has since started to regrow grass, but there's 2 pictures that show the work that was done. I believe had Mr. Davenport come in prior to the work being done, this does appear to comply with the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act. He put erosion controls up once he was notified. I think it's something the commission would have approved had he had come in, but I turn it over to you at this point.
Penny?
I've been out to the site, I walked it Sunday and everything. Actually, the big trees out back, he did leave the big trees, he didn't cut them down. And chain link fence, are you gonna replace it or just
replace
leave
it, yeah. Eventually, I would like to replace it,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, I think it's just good to have to keep the kids' balls
Oh, for sure, I mean, if
in the yard, so they don't
put something
go all
back
the way in the
in its
woods.
place, it's just, it's kind of, you know, it's ugly.
Oh.
It serves its purpose.
You know, what riders and stuff will go around it. But it, yeah, I've been out there, it's, I don't have a problem with what was done. Just that it's happened.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like something that we probably would have approved, so.
Lisa?
Yeah, I think it's great. When he realized there's ways, he came in and rectified it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in shock.
He was, I can testify.
I knocked at her door about an hour after I got in the mail.
He couldn't believe you.
Amy, any comments?
Yeah, no, I think that project speaks for itself, and, you know, he's guilty of not permitting the project, but I think that you probably would have approved this. I had thought, though, it was, you added material, it wasn't just regrading?
No, so they did, they certainly brought in fill to the backyard.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And how much fill was brought in?
So, Andrew Spath, his company Site Pro, he didn't actually give me an end number, an end figure. I'm not even sure if he knows exactly. But if I had to guess, maybe 20 trucks full of fill.
Dump trucks or trailers?
Dump trucks.
Dump trucks.
Oh, okay.
Just
yeah.
dump trucks.
Yeah.
20 feet back, flat from where it was. Obviously still within well within the chain link fence.
Oh,
It
yeah.
pretty much just moved the same slope and grade backward. And grubbed out some of the, some wild stuff that was there before, but you know, most of the tree line that shows in the plan from the Norway maples, the canopy that overhangs.
And they're still there.
They're still there.
Anybody in the audience? Mr. Appleton? So we got the buffer, the 50-foot buffer. There's a riverfront in this as well?
It's not, the river itself is not on this plan.
Okay. So the added fill doesn't create any additional issue for that?
Within the 1 to 200
Okay.
foot.
You can't see it from the backyard.
Okay.
It's a distance.
All right. That's it, it's all been revegetated, or it's growing back?
The process,
So,
yeah.
sure.
And I definitely plan on adding, you know, plantings to what I
That'd be,
grubbed out.
I think that's a critical thing for us, is to try to revegetate the back part
Yes.
and keep that more natural. Obviously, you just...
So late, I didn't get a chance.
Sure.
It wasn't finished until November, so.
Yep, I mean, you can see the significance of where we are there with the Bound Brook and
Yes,
whatnot.
absolutely.
So, okay. Anybody else? So take a motion.
I make a motion to close.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tack Factory Pond Drive, well 17A treatment plant. So this is going to be, there's a request for a continuation, but there's also a question of a butter notification.
Right, I don't, well, I was told by some of the abutters who had found out in other means that this was on the agenda, but that they had not received a butter cards or their letter. So, and then we don't have that proof here, so in this case, I'm thinking we don't open it.
So if we don't open it and they have the information,
They're continuing
But-
it to the 11th anyways.
but procedurally, shouldn't we open it if they don't have, if they did not do that correctly, right?
Yeah.
Then there's two recourse. They either have to
Re-notify.
re-notify and refile, right? Or
They don't need
re-notify.
to refile, they just need to re-notify and re-advertise.
My opinion would be that we go ahead and open it and continue it. And then if they've done that wrong, then they're gonna have to
Do it again.
re-notify.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounds good.
Just
So
keep
we're
it-
covered either way.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on January 28, 2019, 6:55 PM, the Town Hall Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, and Section 32050, Town of Scituate Stormwater Bylaw, regarding the application of the Town of Scituate for improvements to public water supply well 17A, including constructing a 60 by 50 water treatment building, installing a backup generator, a 27,000-gallon backwash water tank, underground piping, stormwater management infiltration basin, constructing a new access drive with 1,465 square feet of new pavement on property located at Tack Factory Pond Drive, Scituate. Work will occur within 200 feet of the riverfront area and 100 feet of the buffer of bordering vegetated wetlands. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
I make a motion to continue Tack Factory Pond Drive, well 17A, to February 11th at 6:20.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. We got a lot going on.
I guess. What else do we have that we need to get done here tonight?
Oh,
I have an agent's report that I'd like to go through.
Sure.
we had some orders,
And we have orders to vote
a
on.
couple.
You guys decide which one you want to do first.
Let me do this quick. I make a motion that we accept the orders.
Amy says she wants to do hers first.
She didn't speak up.
Oh, you're so terrible.
I I make a motion that we accept the orders of condition as written for 0 Edward Foster Road.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion we accept the orders of condition as written for 15 Bassett Lane.
Second.
Did we get a letter on that? From the butter?
On Bassin?
Yeah.
No.
We're okay
No.
with all that?
A letter from, what do you mean?
Some of butter about walls there or something?
No, I had an abutter come in, but I answered his question. He just had a question about an easement.
Okay.
Yeah, he figured it out, because it's historical property up there. It goes
Right.
back to the, like, 1600s.
Yeah, we had,
Pilgrims,
yeah. Okay. They stepped on that rock when they got off the boat. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion?
We have a motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so those are done.
Okay.
Amy?
Oh, actually, we need to do administrative review for, it's in Frank's file. So there's two different projects came to me with modified site plans that I bring them to you to see if you want them to amend their orders, or if this would be considered minor enough, we could just incorporate it into the as-built. One of them is 36 Border Street.
36 Border.
And I'm pretty sure you're very familiar with that project.
I think they just need to refile.
Is that the one?
Just, they can refile.
Okay.
No, that's fine.
That's Ann.
Yes. I think it's real minor. It's on top of a piece of
It's
ledge.
on ledge, and she's got
Yeah.
wetlands on 3 sides.
Yeah, she
and
does.
So she came to say that the blasting price was very high, and that if she could shift it a little bit, it would save her a lot of money.
Yep.
How many
And it
feet?
doesn't really change the intent of the project, 10 feet.
No. But that's going to be
And
an
it's-
interesting site.
Right, there's already some challenges to that site, for
Oh,
sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
So, do we want you to take a vote on that? Or just we agree that we're going to take it in as a modified as-built?
I think you can do a modified as-built for the small area that's moving.
Yeah, I believe that that would be good, yeah.
Okay.
But I figured I'd ask you.
Yep. And then,
The next one is 35 Dreamwald, Lot 4. So this is a Bob Berwick project. I think it's the last lot out there. And this one, I think, has a complicated history, and actually, already with for but what he is at about 800 square feet fill, so that he can have a turnout for the driveway. But if it impacts the stormwater permit, then perhaps, well, even then, I'm not so sure that we need an amended order. I think that.
You know what I'd like to-
If it goes to the review engineer, I think we're probably okay.
the only thing with this one, Amy, if we have a bite at the apple, there was a problem with a discharge, and I'm not sure
yes.
I'm not sure whose problem it is. There's a wetlands area here, and it went into this detention area, and then there was a problem with a pipe here, and it was blocked up, and it was flooding all these people's yards, and
Okay.
there was some controversy over that, whether it was a town issue or the developer's issue, but there hadn't been a flooding problem here, and I just want to know if that got resolved. I mean, if it's really minor in nature, so his turnout is,
I think we would have heard from the neighbors. It probably did get resolved.
Oh, we get calls in this neighborhood, trust me.
Oh,
so I think I'd really like to know, and maybe we have to include Mike Breen in that, and find out, because there was catch basins here, and the town was trying to clear theirs, and the thing was a mess.
It was
And I'm just not sure that this all got,
taken care of.
But is that really related to this lot in this area?
well, the whole project is all,
Tied into the same stormwater? Is that, all right, well, so that was going to be the step one was to see which way you were.
I'm not sure we really need to, I'm not sure we need to amend the orders for it,
Yeah.
but I'd like to know whether this piece got resolved.
Well, I'll find that out because we are going to bring it to the attention of the peer review engineer for the stormwater.
Okay.
And I'm not sure who that is, whether it's Merrill or Chesia. I think it might be Chesia.
Yeah, I'm not sure who even knows about this. All I know is we were there a couple of years ago, I think before you got here, that whole area was flooded badly. And it had to do with a pipe that got either plugged or broken or something in the process of building that road. And somebody jammed a pipe into the basin to just kind of patch it up, so. Guy that knows almost everything around town is.
He's raising his finger.
I was just going to, either they were doing some water work in the original road layout or gas work. I can't remember which of the two it was, but when they went by that drainage pipe, they did some damage.
Yeah.
I think I was out there with you, Frank, actually.
Yeah, everybody was, because it was a mess.
No, it was. It flooded the yard.
The DPW would know if that got fixed or not.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it was probably fixed because it really was a mess when it happened.
Yeah.
Flooded the uphill yard.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that was doing the site work claimed he never saw a pipe.
Of course
But
not.
it wasn't something that was on the site. I mean, we saw the pipe coming out of the pond, but the issue was in the street, not in the pond itself. I think they cut the pipe off so it was gas.
There was a whole bunch of finger pointing. That's what I remember.
Take responsibility, but somebody.
But it was definitely in the road layout, though. It wasn't something that was.
Well, maybe.
Okay.
Not so sure about that either, but
All right.
that's, yeah.
So you're leaning towards no amendment.
I don't think it needs an amendment, but I'd like to know if that piece got properly taken care of. We can work with them on this, provided we know that this drainage piece got
Or what happened to
properly.
drainage.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll report back on that. Okay, so going right along into new business, we have a pile of correspondence that we received in the office, of which there's the upcoming MAC conference on March 2nd. Does anybody want to go? Let us know. It's an all-day Saturday affair, and you'll be happy to know that they are coming out with the promised land subject to coastal storm flowage performance standards. And so there's a highlighted talk on that subject.
When is that?
March 2nd.
March 2nd.
First Saturday in March at Holy Cross in Worcester.
Okay.
So, let's see, there's that. Let's see, we have received correspondence from the state on the appeal of 53 Border Street, calling for dismissal. But I do not believe that we received from the hearing officer her opinion yet. But it looks to me like, I don't know, like that one could go away, not sure. Budget meetings are this week and next week. Advisory committee on Thursday, Board of Selectmen on Tuesday. So we'll be doing a lot of meetings in this office.
Tomorrow night is selectmen on this?
No,
they will.
a week from Tuesday.
I thought they met every Tuesday during.
They might be they might be. So
It's not on until the following Tuesday.
So the budget is when, is what day?
Thursday. This Thursday coming up, and then
I don't know if I'm gonna,
a week from tomorrow.
we have a whole coastal piece is what, Wednesday night, Lisa?
Honestly, the budget hearings for our department.
How are we doing?
Are pretty easy. I mean, I will rattle through our numbers, which are very impressive as far as permitting goes.
Yep.
And we generate quite a bit of.
Do we ask for any more money?
No, no staff, no money, nothing.
They won't give it.
So it's
Yeah.
level. Yeah.
All right.
We get nothing.
Well, we do get a
Get an
small
attaboy.
COLA increase
Yeah.
per contract, but
Attaboy,
Yeah.
all right.
that's what's,
My dog gets.
there's not a lot to talk about.
Okay.
Okay, Toll Brothers, SWIP violations, corrective measures. So you all saw all the pictures that I sent around with the sediment leaving the site from last Thursday's rainstorm. So anyways, together collectively, the town planner, myself, took immediate action, met out there with the contractor and the Toll Brothers representatives to come up, and different consultants to identify the different areas where the stormwater was going out of the site and where it was going and what they were going to do about it. I have an enforcement order ready to go after consultation with Frank and some thoughts about them. Actually, and the state, also spoke to the state about it, but they are coming up with a plan to address the issues at hand. And so we're meeting out there tomorrow morning with the team to see what has actually been done. Because as you know, tomorrow night comes in another rain/snowstorm. So we need to be prepared, or they need to be prepared to handle the stormwater from the site.
What time's the meeting tomorrow, Amy?
It's a meeting at 11.
On site?
It's in the toll trailer, but it's the town representatives, SLT, and the Toll Brothers. And we're going to walk the site. I mean, if you want to go, Frank, it's probably going to be, not a quick meeting.
I will say, I went Friday and I was totally impressed how they cleaned the mess up that had happened.
Well, that's great, because we told them to
No,
shut
but
it
I'm
down.
just saying, at least somebody did something when they were told.
Right, Karen and I went out there and we told them that we needed all hands on deck to address the violations. And they were going like gangbusters with their street sweepers and trying to identify the different sources of the water leaving the site. There's a drainage pipe, the municipal drainage pipe that runs along Hatherley that literally is like bubbling up with silty water coming down.
Mhm.
So I'm going to suspect that, like in the hearing process, they're going to point to the town as being a contributor to the silty water. But I don't know, we're going to have Sean McCarthy there tomorrow. We think it's still coming from that site, that somehow the historical piping probably does go down to that run. But so anyways, it's a work in progress. If they don't make good faith efforts to rectify the situation, then I think the advice that the state gave was definitely issue the enforcement order, with a cease and desist until they can get everything figured out.
Was the state aware, did they get the pictures of the plume?
Yep.
Of that siltation in the ocean?
Yes, and I was in direct contact with Jim Mahala, section chief, about it, and also Bernadette, the staff member that I've been in contact with.
Yeah.
But, their opinion would be if they're responding to the local commission in the town and trying to take corrective measures, they're doing what they would want, you know what I mean? So they're working with us, not against us, you know what I mean? They're not just telling us to go,
No, it seems that way, and going by there, all of a sudden, there's a real effort to build up these detention areas and hold back but this is the second issue. This same contractor was building at Ann Vinyl Road,
Right.
and they had issues over there.
We pegged them for deficiencies at Ann Vinyl Road as well.
So, I guess my point and my question to you is, we have a lot of projects going on, so you're not able to be at all these projects, neither is Karen. So we hired Horsley Witten to be there and monitor that project for us. And all of a sudden, it's a surprise that we have all this siltation. I know that was difficult. Anytime you have a lot of disturbed area, we had a lot of frozen ground, you have some thawing on the top, and then you get all the rain. It's not a great site, and that was why I had the questions about the high school, because it's the same crappy soil in both locations. There's nothing that's going to drain from that. It's all going to run somewhere.
Right.
And in this case, everything You know, some stuff slopes towards Tilden, but the majority of where they've been working right now slopes towards Hatherley.
Okay.
So sooner or later, they're gonna go over the hill and do the same thing.
Well, we had a breakout point on Tilden.
So,
Yeah, you did.
so you have both those areas, and before this happened, some of these detention areas should have been built. I mean, they were trying to make time and get more work done.
Right.
You know, and tragically, they've already had a bad accident there.
Right, well, so what are you saying? I mean, do you want to penalize them?
Yeah, I think, well, I wonder if we have enough eyes on this project. I mean, we had to negotiate with them as to how much money they would spend to have their project monitored. And they didn't want nearly what we wanted, and we compromised on that.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if we compromise too much, and this is an opportunity to go back and say, we want more.
Well, it is, and it's already happening, Frank. So we've been in discussion with ramping up the on-site supervisor, you know, consultant for the town's eyes out there. In my opinion, we should have somebody there full-time.
Well, maybe this is the
At this
opportunity to
point,
do
but
that.
You're right, the town does not have the staff to put a staff member out there, so.
Well, that's the reason we have a consultant
we
do
need to
that.
negotiate with them.
And I want to make sure that they're doing their job. Are they on site and doing the work that they're supposed to do? They're getting paid a lot of money for that.
No, I know, well, and he was on site Thursday morning, and then, if you remember, when the rain came through, it just totally ramped up in
Right.
a day, and so when Karen and I went out for like a 3 o'clock, or 2:30 or 3 o'clock drive around the perimeter of the site, it was going out in like 6 different locations, and it was definitely going across Hatherley, down that.
But if they had built the stuff,
impervious
if they had done the
marsh.
work that they're doing now prior to that storm,
It wouldn't happen.
some probably would have, because it's just difficult to manage.
Right.
But I don't believe it would have happened to the degree that it did.
Right, and
So who is
Karen has been on them for the last 3 weeks, telling them, or longer, telling them that they need to comply with their permits.
And how is that working out for her?
Well, it's obviously not working out that great, but, and we've had eyes from Horsley Witten on the site, I don't know how many times a week, because they're not doing our wetland work yet, but as far as the SWIP goes, you're right.
I mean, we have all this talk, and we have all these plans, and we have all this regular,
Yeah.
but it's not working.
Right. Well, so,
I'm not, this isn't pointed at you.
I know, well, I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, though. I mean, do you want to go forward with enforcement actions? I mean, what is the threshold that they need to cross for us to, like...
I think they already
the
crossed
penalty,
it.
I mean, because we have the right to penalize them, you know what I mean?
If they're more than just building some of these detention areas,
Yeah.
if they're willing to work with us and allow additional monitoring or pay for some of that, and we can get that from Horsley Witten or whoever we need to have do it, then I think that's probably reasonable. But if they're gonna balk at all this and say, oh,
Right, that's a
no,
good way. You go to them first and just sit with the carrot and say, we want more monitoring, and then if they balk, then you bring the stick out, you know.
I just think that this is not like a couple of house lots.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Right, now, one of the requirements on the SWIP is that there's inspection reports that are required, they're required to submit them, and I'm not sure what the frequency is.
You know, when
We need to step that up, you know what I mean?
when that gas line blew up in Merrimack Valley, there's a whole bunch of legislators there saying we're gonna start a study, or we're gonna get an administrative review. I think we're beyond that point. I don't want to hear a bunch of...
Right, the question now is how is this going to get fixed?
Right.
Right.
And who's going to stay on them to make sure that, I mean, we're going to be 2 more years with these guys doing this thing.
So we're going to need more funding.
Yeah, the review funding is already close to $100,000.
Oh.
So, you know, I mean, and that's just
Doesn't seem like
phase
it,
one.
maybe it's
That's
not
phase
enough.
one. That's not even all the phases. So,
But if we're paying someone to do that, are they doing their job?
Maybe we should evaluate them.
maybe we should.
I'd like to hear from our person as well.
Do you want to have me bring the peer review person in?
Probably. I don't know if we want to do it at a, we got meetings and stuff like that, but yeah, I want to hear from them. I want to find out what they're doing and why this happened. I mean, if they were telling them it was wrong and Karen was telling them it was wrong, then maybe we should be fining them.
Yeah, they are going, well, we asked that on Friday morning, and basically everybody in the room said, geez, look, all this rain came all at once.
And it did.
It was 2 or 3 inches, and I'm like, actually, it was just over an inch.
Yeah.
It was on the news, acid.
It was a tough situation, and,
Right.
and it happens.
Yeah, but they need to be prepared, because that's what happens in the New England.
Can I just
You know what
ask
mean?
a question, because I'm getting a little confused here. Were they supposed to, what you're saying, Frank, is they should be doing the retention basins first?
Either the permanent ones or temporary ones
Okay.
need to be constructed, so
Yeah.
when they're disturbing all this area
Yeah.
and water's flowing from it, it goes somewhere other than in the street or into the drainage.
No, and they're working on it, Frank.
They're doing it now, Amy, but they
Right.
didn't do it.
It should have been done, is what
Okay,
you're
so then
saying.
should
Yeah.
we penalize them?
Well, let's see where we're gonna go with keeping it, how they're gonna monitor this and how they're gonna stay on top of it.
Do you think that we should maybe have some dates that, so that's measurable, so they'll know they've got to get this done by this time?
Well, I think that's been made pretty clear. I just want to make sure that, from this point forward, we have enough
Water leaves the site.
supervision and that the people that are reviewing it are doing their job as well, on both sides. I want to make sure that both our consultant and the people that are there are doing what they're being. We can't direct their contractor, but we have people there that are supposed to be doing that work. And so maybe we should see the reports that Horsley Witten sent for the past 3 or 4 weeks. Is there actual paper trail from them saying that you guys are wrong, or you haven't done what you're supposed to? Let's see those reports.
Yeah, there is documentation
All
calling them
right.
out.
Well, if we got all that stuff, then maybe we should be finding them.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't realize they were being that neglectful.
Yeah, well, they've had some tough times out there, you probably heard.
Yeah.
And they just switched up the superintendent. The original guy got switched to another job, so there's a brand-new individual, and I think he's just getting up to speed. I'm not making excuses for him.
Right, it's
but
okay to make a mistake, but it's how you react to it. Did you jump on it and?
Yeah,
Do you rectify it, or are you just ignoring it?
All right.
Yeah, no, it's-
Yeah, that would beat this
And I know
horse.
that the basin that is right behind the construction trailer on the north side, or west side, whatever, they were finishing shaping that, and then they were gonna add erosion control, so that the site itself is gonna be completely surrounded.
All right, well, let's,
So, I mean, they are making progress, I feel good about that, but we'll
Okay.
see tomorrow.
all right.
But like Frank said, it was a crazy storm. I had stuff happen in my yard that's never happened before, and stuff being washed away. But that's their responsibility to be ready for crazy storms.
Right.
We had a lot of hearings, we had a lot of abutters that were in here, a lot of concerned citizens from around there. They haven't even moved towards those people's houses yet.
Well, there's a residence on Hatherley Road, I think at the corner of 6th and Hatherley, that they're
Probably got,
specifically have gone and met with them. I was in the emails today, so.
okay. All right. We don't need
Not good.
to,
Okay, I think I have a couple other little ones.
It is what it is.
Okay, we got our findings letter from the open meeting law complaint that was lodged against the Conservation Commission. And the conclusion from the AG's office is no violation, so.
you can thank Jen and Amy for putting the verbiage together for that letter.
Right.
What were we being bad about?
That was the guy who wanted to make more comments during the orders, and we wouldn't let him because the hearing was closed, and he was being deprived of his right to speak.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
then the last one, which I think we're going to shelve until the next meeting maybe, is ferry door discussion.
I don't want to discuss ferry doors, but I do
Yes.
want to just bring up the whole Driftway Park thing. I saw you sent out an email. You know, there's just been a lot of destruction
Yeah.
of trees. There's a tree that got totally limbed. I'm getting feedback from our trails people. Somebody
showed that to
somebody hung a couple of big
Yeah, I
wind
showed it
chime
all.
things. They're like
Yeah.
cutaway oxygen tanks. But somebody cut half the limbs down around this oak tree and chained a bench up to the bottom of it. So
I want to know what lobster buoys have to do with hanging.
it's not a
trees.
lobster buoy. What they did is they took like an air cylinder, cut the bottom off, and they put a thing inside that, so when it swings, it's like a
It's
wind chime.
But then they locked it to the tree?
Yeah.
With the
Yeah,
padlock?
with a padlock. Yeah.
And there's a few other violations
Yeah.
in there, so we're not gonna get to it all tonight, but we are gonna, and we're gonna wind up having to write more regulations and put up more goddamn signs to tell people what to do and what not to do, which is a shame.
Well, I
But it is,
Don't hang shit in the trees.
well, it's more than that, it's really a disregard for, we have some really nice property here,
Is what's happening.
and more people are using it, which is great, but with that's gonna come more issues.
Right.
You know, and it's no different than being in
Peter
Central
lives there.
Park
Why
or,
don't you go clean it up?
Well, what Howard said, I think it was Howard.
Yeah,
was-
or Rich.
That one is, well, Rich, it's like a public park. You
Right.
know what I mean? So maybe there should be different rules for that park, but
we're gonna have to think about
it's a
it.
no-brainer. Don't cut our trees and don't chain things
Don't
to
put
it.
stuff
You
up.
can't
The
alter
Christmas
anything
decorations
unless you
have to
own the
stop.
property. I mean, that's pretty
All right.
simple.
But I'm just not sure if we can just go confiscate the stuff without notice.
I think we can, and who's gonna, let them come get it. We'd be like, we'll bring it back here, and then if they wanna come claim it, they can give us their
Well,
name and number.
do you-
Well, they can go to the train.
You get a ticket for littering and defacing, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All
Well,
right,
we need a cutter, though, a cable cutter.
I think we can get one.
Well, I don't have it.
All
We
right.
need some.
Yep, we're done.
Even if we had one,
Are we
I
all
don't
set?
think we could
Motion
do
to
it.
close?
Yeah.
Are we done?
We are so done, yes.
Okay.
We'll discuss the fairy trees later.
All right,
Yeah,
have a
everyone can
motion
dwell
to
on that.
I
adjourn?
make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.